What's up, everyone? Welcome to the 539th episode of the Pokemon Podcast. It's super effective. I'm your host, Steve. We have a last episode before Scarlet Violet actually comes out to celebrate the occasion. Surprise, Greg's here.
I'm here to bring your daily dose of negativity. I already struggle with time as like a concept. So,
okay.
Because, look, as you get older, time just really starts to not make a whole lot of sense. And I was on Twitter, and I'm like, oh, I'm really excited for these games. They're coming out in like a month. And then I saw the thing that was like 7 days away, and I'm like, what?
That's not a month.
What the heck day is it? Oh, yeah, it is just a week. I'm still in my head. It's like, it's a month away. It's a month away. It's a month away. It's not.
It's been a month away for 6 months.
It's been a month away for 6 months.
Yeah. Alice here.
Yes, and all Skittles taste the same.
They don't.
I agree with Al on this. It's the only reason Al is here. We had the Skittles. I was like, I need a defender of the Skittles.
They don't. And what makes me mad is the one study that they're like, all Skittles taste the same to these people. They plugged their noses and made them taste. I'm like, yeah, well, all meat tastes the same as well if you plug your nose. Everything tastes the same when you plug your nose because we use both to taste.
We can't have.
Okay.
We don't have enough time in this episode to debate Skittles.
Oh, because there's so much news, Steve.
Well,
there are big things happening in the world of Pokemon.
We have 3 news items this week, and I feel like they're going to take a lot of time. Well, 2 of the 3.
Okay.
I'll let the listeners decide which one didn't take enough time. Okay, so here's the thing before we get into things, because I know people are going to be really cautious and stuff going into next week. Obviously, we report on official Pokemon news here. When the games come out, that's a little weird because it's an open world game. So
Yep.
The episodes will still come out every Monday. Those episodes will not include story spoiler things. They might include mechanics, though. Like, hey, on next Monday, we're probably going to talk about how breeding works. Assuming that breeding's in the game. We already know that because they already said that you can get eggs from picnics. So you're probably going to be... There are people right now listening to the show being like, how do the eggs and picnics work? We're probably going to talk about that on Monday. So I don't know who is considering that a spoiler 3 to 4 days after the game came out because that's just a mechanic. But that's something we're going to be talking about. The bonus episodes, the mini-series we are going to do, that is going to talk about the story and our experiences with the story. So at the start of those episodes, we will say what we're talking about. We'll be like, hey, we went to Mesagosa, and we're talking about everything in Mesagosa. That's an example. I don't actually know if there's anything to talk about in Mesagosa. I would assume so, since it's the biggest city in that region. But
There had better be a hot dog vendor there. That's all I'm saying.
So yeah, I know there was like this huge thing with the Crown Tundra where Glastrier and Spectrier were like new Pokemon, and I felt the right call to talk about them because I was very confident the Pokemon Company was going to talk about them that week because of the Sword and Shield competitive format, and it was like, do we talk about Spectrier or Glastrier, or do we wait a full week? But I think they're talking about it this week. And they did because they had to. The competitive format changed that week. So they had to acknowledge that those Pokemon existed. Even though the Crown Tundra just came out, it was like, well, yeah, but you're putting them into the next format of competitive, so you have to say they're real. So just a heads up. We'll try to be as transparent as possible before we start talking about something. Like we're going to be talking about the anime stuff today. And if you don't know by now, I spend...
Spoiler.
I spend
Spoiler.
20 to 30 minutes before publishing episodes putting in timestamps. So if you're ever like, hey, I want to skip the Ash stuff and listen to what comes after the Ash stuff, the timestamps are always in the show notes on literally every podcast app you're using to listen to. Okay, I think the house cleaning is out of the way. Yeah. Housework is out of the way. Okay. First bit of news here.
It still bothers me that you say house cleaning.
What are we calling it?
It's housekeeping.
Oh,
It's
housekeeping.
It's housekeeping. It's keeping house. You're not cleaning anything. We didn't clean anything. We kept the house.
My mind is clean.
When? Since when?
Just now. We got the final trailer. This is the press release. New Pokemon Scarlet and Violet details revealed, including more on Tera raid battles and special in-game events. More details were revealed about the highly anticipated Scarlet and Violet games, including more information about the Paldea region and Tera raid battles, updates to online play, compatibility with home, and in-game events.
Celebratory?
Yeah, I thought that was the right word. For Unite, were also shared. You can watch the all-new trailer here. Except they didn't show the Unite stuff in the trailer.
I'm like, in-game.
So from November 18th through February 1st, Pokemon Unite will hold a special in-game event to commemorate the release of the latest games in the Pokemon franchise. Players will be able to receive a Pokemon Scarlet and Pokemon Violet themed fashion items, stickers, and Unite snapshots, and more. Starting January 1st, those playing the Nintendo Switch version of Pokemon Unite that have save data from Pokemon Scarlet and Violet will also receive an in-game trainer fashion item that matches the look of the main characters from the new games. And
I'm assuming they mean it's the school outfit, like it's the standard, not like
you get the school outfit in Unite to wear.
Not like whatever
trainer.
you're wearing will pass on over.
That would be impressive.
I would love it.
That would be really good. I didn't really include any Unite news this week just because we don't have time, but like Dragapult and Urshifu and Comfey are apparently coming to Unite. They're on the public
test server. They're massively changing a bunch of things. But the big news is we are 6 days away from Sableye. Even less now. Was this coming out Monday? We are 4 days away.
Are you even going to have time to play Sableye with Scarlet and Violet?
No. Well, that's what I said, because the first week is pay only through gems, and I thought if it had come out last week, I was going to pay gems. But since it comes out on Wednesday, they're not getting my money because I'm not going to be able to play it for 2 weeks, and then it'll be for coins.
At least we had Community Day before the release, so that was an improvement.
Oh my gosh, yeah. That was Sword and Shield release day was Friday, and then Community Day was Saturday, and I'm pretty sure it was Chimchar. I think it was
That
Chimchar.
sounds right.
And I remember literally running to the mall, playing for just an hour just to get 3, and then like driving back home and then like starting stream.
Yeah.
I was like, I get. There's a part of me that like I understand. You want all your player base to participate something Pokemon in a weekend, but there's another part of me that's like, there are overlap in your player base that wants to do everything and cannot because time exists.
Well, this is the thing, because like most franchises don't work like that. When they have a bunch of things, they spread them out so that then you know, it's like with Disney, with owning Star Wars and Marvel stuff, they're trying not to overlap them so that there's always something you can watch. This idea of like, oh no, everything must happen at the same time. It doesn't. It's bizarre.
It is a uniquely Janine Pokemon experience. She has got complete command over that calendar, and she does not want to work more than 1 weekend a month. That's it. And she will. She's got an iron grip on how they schedule things.
This press release wants to start off with the Donphan stuff, but I don't.
What? Just get it out of the way.
Let's start off with the Tera raids.
Oh yeah.
Let's start off with that.
Best
so
thing.
they talk about 2 different Tera raid things. First is First, we'll do the Eevee stuff. Special Tera raid battle event will increase your chance for encountering certain Pokemon or Tera types. I hate the I told you so people, and I never want to be the I told you so people. But the amount of people I've had to explain this to in my Twitch chat has been so exhausting. But I think I was right in what they're doing here. And I'll explain one more time before these games come out. And if I'm wrong, that's cool. You guys can come into my Twitch chat and say, look, Steve, you're wrong. Totally okay with that. But I think it's pretty clear cut what the next 3 years of this game is going to look like, assuming that the game is 3 years. After the release of Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, Tera Raid Battle events will allow players to take on specific Pokemon or encounter Pokemon with certain Tera types more frequently. The Tera Raid crystals related to these events may look ordinary at first glance, but are shrouded in a mystery aura. The first of these Tera Raid Battle events will be the Eevee Spotlight, held on November 24th to 27th, so a week after the game comes, Thanksgiving weekend. During the event, Eevee with various Tera types will appear more frequently in Tera Raid battles. I guess
Okay.
we'll do the Charizard too as well. Take on Black Tera Raid battles. During their adventures, players may find black crystals that look different than other ones that they would ordinarily approach to take on for Tera Raids. The Pokemon they'll face in these black Tera Raid crystals are much stronger than those that appear in ordinary Tera Raid battles and are only available for a limited time. Trainers who manage to successfully defeat these Pokemon can get rewards even more exciting than usual. Charizard with the Mightiest Mark will appear in black Tera Crystal. That's just a mouthful. Black Crystal Tera Raid battles. The Dragon Knight Mega Sableye. This Charizard will be appearing 2 times. The first is December 1st through 4th, then again December 15th through 18th. Charizard cannot normally be encountered in Paldea, and the Charizard appearing during this event is a dragon as its Tera type. Players will be able to take on Tera Raid battles at Black Crystals after completing certain post-game events. However, players who haven't completed the event may still participate in Tera Raid battles by joining other players using the link code. So the quick mechanic thing about the Charizard, somebody has to beat the game to do the Charizard stuff. This is no different than in Sword and Shield, where if you wanted 5-star raids to appear, you had to beat Leon. But if somebody else beat Leon, they could invite you to those raids. It's the same thing here with Charizard. I guess the underlining thing here is we don't know what considers beating the game. Is that defeating the champion? Is that beating the game?
Yeah, it says certain post-game events. So presumably, once you have defeated whatever this versions of the champion is, which, there are theories about based on things that have happened, there will presumably be someone that explains this black crystal to you, and then you can use it. Like, I don't think it's going to be a complicated thing. It's not like, here's a chain of 5 different things. It's not going to be like getting the other dog in Sword and Shield, right? That was a complicated, nice, fun little story. It's not going to be something complicated like that. But yeah, I think my issue with this is not. I think this is an interesting idea. I think it's really cool, and I think we can see they've clearly been thinking about this, because I think this is to replace things like the Mewtwo event, the Zeraora event. Was there a shiny one? There was an Urshifu event. I think there was one you were battling that was shiny.
In Zeraora, the shiny one was harder.
Yeah.
Yes. So I think it's to replace that. So they didn't allow you to catch them, but I suspect that's because they didn't code in the ability to only catch one, as this is telling us.
Yes.
And so this, I think, we probably won't get events like that again, and instead they'll be in this, so you can fight them, you can catch them once, and then you can keep fighting them again. I don't have an issue with that. I think it's very quick and very short to have an event that requires at least some people to be post-game. And I know that you just need to find people, but not everybody has friends who play the game as well. Right?
Not everybody has friends. The end.
Well, not everybody has friends who play the game and play the game fast,
Yeah, okay, so there are a couple things here. One, we're hoping it's better than YCOM. We say this every generation of game. Like, people are like, Festival Plaza was the worst thing ever, and I was like, let me introduce you to YCOM.
YCOM was so worse than Festival Plaza.
But so we don't know that. We don't know how well we don't know if it is easy to see other people who have beat the game randomly that you can just join, because that might alleviate a lot of the concern.
A small spark of hope in my heart with a phrase by using a link code. And my hope is that it is somewhat similar to Dynamax Adventures, where you can put
Nintendo
you can all
get
put in link
confirmation?
code and come in.
Nintendo told me it should be like Dynamax Adventure,
Yeah.
not like, yeah.
That fixes a lot of the problems with Wycombe for me.
Yeah,
Like, if I
Nintendo
could
told me
just
that
put
it should be like well, Nintendo has not been 100% correct, in past things. They've misspoken before, but the 2 reps I talked to when I asked that specific question did say it should be like Dynamax Adventure, where you enter a link code. You do not need to be on their friends list. That's what they told me. Couple things here. Marks are returning. Incredible. Great. Fantastic. I think they're a fun addition. They make Pokemon more unique. I think there's always been this concept or this thought process in Pokemon where like IVs and natures and all that makes a Pokemon unique. It really doesn't, because there are like optimal things that you need to run. Or like, cool, your Grimmsnarl is adamant, mine Grimmsnarl is bold. I get why you're running bold. You're more defensive. I'm running adamant because I need to be a little bit stronger, but I don't feel like our Grimmsnarls are really that unique. I do think that marks were a brilliant addition to Sword and Shield. They give you a reason to collect if you like to collect. They give you a reason to catch the same Pokemon. And, if Greg wants 18 different Roselias, all with different marks, that's like a new thing that he could do. If you're a shiny hunter and you're like, I want more rare shinies, like a shiny with a mark is statistically more rare than a 1 in 8,000 shiny that existed in past Pokemon games. So they do add a lot there. We also
combining that with the Tera types as well can make even more combinations of things that are all uniquely good. Like, it's not like we go, as you say, like there's ideal IVs, there's ideal natures, maybe 2 if you're lucky. But there's probably no real ideal Tera type for many of these Pokemon as well, because you can run different strategies.
Yeah, and it's also a very, very simple thing you can ignore. If you don't care about marks, really easy thing to ignore.
Yeah.
Yep, and I do.
So we already have the first Pokemon that's not in the region Dex, which is Charizard, assuming that you can
Do we actually know that it's not in the region Dex?
Well, it says that
I think they said it's not normally available.
Found in usually when it says it can't be found in the game, it obviously there's plenty of Pokemon in Sword and Shield that don't have like, that's what I'm assuming, right? Like that's what they mean, because like when you catch like Nihilego in the Crown Tundra in Dynamax Adventures, it doesn't have a Pokedex entry, right?
Yeah. I wasn't saying that it's not. I'm just saying I don't know whether that like.
Yeah, I'm just assuming that Charizard doesn't have a Pokedex entry, right?
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough.
Yeah. That's what that wording means. That like you'll catch the Charizard, but it won't have.
I think that is what I assumed when I first read it as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we assume that Blastoise and Venusaur are future.
Nowhere in the game, because why would they be there? Because it's just Charizard. What they're they're trying to hint here is you can't catch Charizard, but you can get Warzard in the game. So you'll get
Warzard.
the Warzard form. But Charizard in its Cantonian form won't have a Pokedex. You can't normally find that in Paldea.
I wonder if, because they're like, the first one is December 1st through 4th, so that's 2 weeks. I wonder what their statistics are of like 50% of our fan base beats the game in 2 weeks, and then of that 50%, 40% disappear and move back to Fortnite. Like,
it does also feel weird that they're doing all these 3 events before the big holiday that happens at the end of the year called Christmas, when a lot of these people get these games.
Well, there's no doubt there's going to be a Christmas event.
Right. But I just feel like, are these the only 2 dates? And also, like, the second date feels to me like, shouldn't this be a post Christmas date and not
or the weekend of Christmas,
or the weekend of Christmas.
Or the other option is I'm a little bit confused why they've done it in such short events at all. Like if you're running it for 4 days and then 2 weeks later you're running it for another 4 days, and you're already restricting the number you can catch, I'm not sure why they didn't just run it for the 2 weeks. Like that to me would make a lot more sense, because I think the advantage, because this is the thing, right? If you look at all the previous events, right? This is to replace events of some kind, right? Like it's probably not going to completely replace you go into your GameStop shop and pick up a code, right? It's not going to replace that.
Please?
But I wouldn't be surprised if it didn't reduce them. I feel like this is their way to be able to do less of that if they want to. And those always run, at least a couple of weeks, normally a month and a half. And it just seems weird that this is so short.
Well, it's very clear that they listened to the show and we were like, can you announce these raid battles early? And they did.
We
have
That's true.
dates, which is great. All joking aside, is there something like we haven't mentioned that this is 100% marketing? I know that people hate the Charizard pandering, but I'm sorry. Gorbis is not going to sell copies of your game. Charizard is. Like, if people were on the fence and it is release weekend, having Charizard be so early and being like this, only catch once, very difficult, mighty Charizard, is such an easy marketing tactic to convince those people to be like, oh man, everyone's been talking about it. Charizard's coming up next week. Do I wait till Christmas? No, whatever. I'll just get it now. Like, and if they push as many people to buy it before Christmas and then word of mouth is this is an incredible game, guess what goes on people's Christmas lists? Because people keep talking about how great this game is. So I think that is really the marketing side of it. Whereas, like, they're not saying what's happening after Christmas, because if Charizard is coming back after Christmas, let's just say, I have no clue, people would be like, I'll just wait. But they want people to go out and get it now.
Yeah. Well, I think there's also another reason why they do it early, and I think it's a very good reason, in that, as you say, like, most people who play these games do not spend weeks. Like, the fact that I have scheduled my gaming for this year to mean that I am not having to play any other games for the rest of the year, right? That is a unique thing. We are weird people, right? Most people don't. They pick it up, they play it for a week, and then they finish. And the fact that this is launching, 2 weeks after, means that they're still going to be in that brain space, so that it can get them hooked into the idea of these events very quickly. Because if they did it a month later, we would still do it. Of course we would. But normal, we always use that phrase, normal people, they're not going to be doing that.
Just say filthy casuals. Filthy casuals.
But
won't
doing it 2 weeks after means that they are much more likely to look into that and maybe go, oh, yeah, then maybe this is something I can do regularly.
It's interesting that they're kind of setting up an every 2 week schedule, because it's like Eevee, Charizard. Then
there's only 1 week between Eevee and Charizard.
Yeah, are they setting up are they trying to prime for a schedule? Like, expect these things to happen on a regular clip? Is it just a big push at the start, which is setting up a situation in which if you don't keep it up, people won't be in the habit, right? Like, if you do it right at the beginning before a majority of people get the game, because let's face it, a lot of people don't spend money pre-Christmas because they're saving up for Christmas. If you don't keep up this level of event, what do you like? It's also, it's hard to say, like, a special raid event. I want to know how big of a push that actually is, right? Like, how many extra copies does that sell? It's hard to divine that out from holiday sales, because the minute Thanksgiving hits, it's a mad dash to buy things. So it feels like, yeah, it's an extra bonus for people who already have the game, but I don't necessarily think like this is a big selling push in the busiest retail. I don't
think Charizard is a selling push for. I think Charizard is a selling push for people who like Charizard, which is a big market.
Right, but I don't think it's an overwhelming selling push during an incredibly big gift-giving holiday section, right? Like, this is people who either are going to buy the game before Christmas or they are being told they wait because it's their Christmas gift, right? Like, I don't know that that's a huge
I would argue
sell.
that catching, because you can only catch one of these Charizards. I don't know if we said that. To be clear,
Yep.
It's one Charizard per save file. Who knows if there's a way to manipulate that or whatever. You can still do raids. You can do as many as you want. You can only catch one Charizard per game. So, I already saw the question, are these Charizards shiny? That would be like, how would you can you see if it's shiny in it? Is shiny after it? Like, if it's just one, it seems like it probably won't be shiny. They've done raid events where, things were locked, or they've done raid events where they forgot to
ones that were. They've done ones where they meant to be locked and then didn't manage it.
Correct. I was gonna say that too. Yes.
So you might get one early.
But like, let's look back at like Brilliant Diamond, Shining Pearl. You could only get not Mew and you can only get Manaphy within the first 2 months of that game. I would argue more. And I get that Manaphy is a mythical Pokemon. Very hard to get. With Charizard, you can get a lot of games. But I would argue that Charizard would push more copies than Manaphy. Easy. Not even close. Even though Manaphy is a mythical Pokemon. Like, just people inherently just love and like Charizard. Mm-hmm. And so it's like, I can only get this one Charizard within the first month of the game. And it's in a very special raid. It's Dragon Tera type. It has a mark. And I say it has a mark because like I know what that means and I care about it, and maybe other people don't. But like, they're good. Hey, it only took them like 3 years to acknowledge marks are like. I don't even think they brought it up at all in Sword and Shield. I don't think they ever did like, hey, marks are cool.
Sure.
I don't think they really.
I don't remember any specific marketing towards it, but that doesn't mean it didn't happen. I don't remember any.
No.
Here's the other thing too. So this kind of goes with the Eevee stuff, and so there were two pushbacks on my initial theory of what was going to happen. Number one is the Pokemon Company / Nintendo said all Pokemon will have all Tera types, and that's a very vague sentence because we don't know how many Pokemon there are. Everything we like when you say all Pokemon, are you also including legendaries? Like if how am I supposed to get 18 Koraidons with 18 Tera types? Like, right, like just using Koraidon as an example, your statement of all Pokemon have all Tera types is inherently broken. Because Koraidon, like, that's like saying all Pokemon can Dynamax. No, not all Pokemon can Dynamax. Zacian and Zamazenta could not Dynamax. Your statement is wrong.
Yeah, so I think of it more like if you would say, all Pokemon can have all IV spreads, right? That is technically
wrong.
True. Well, technically, technically wrong. All Pokemon can have any number in any IV slot. Then there you go. That's technically true. There are legendaries have a minimum of 331 IVs, but technically any of them can be any number. If you ignore the other IVs.
Correct.
But that doesn't mean that you have to have a way to be able to get all of them. Right, so if they say they can be all of them, any of them, that doesn't mean that you have to be able to catch 18 Koraidon. It just means that when you catch it, it's going to be one of the 18. Is it 18? 14?
No, because when you catch, maybe in Koraidon's instance, and I think there's still confusion on how Tera type works. If you walk around the wild area and you see Lechonk can only be normal Tera type, no matter how many you catch. And if you see a Roselia, I don't know if Roselia is in the game now.
You bring it up to break my heart is what you're doing.
But Roselia, is fire. Fire.
Yes,
Roselia is
it can
fire.
only
Right
be
now, it's on fire.
It's pure fire in my heart.
Roselia is grass or poison. So the ones you see, no matter how many you catch in the wild, 50% of them are grass, 50% of them are poison. That's how it works. When you go into raids, when you see the Super Saiyan ones in the wild, those can be quote unquote any. We don't know how that works either.
Right. And I also feel like they're giving themselves a way of including an item later that allows you to change the Tera type.
Oh, I'm sure that's DLC.
Right.
Or
I think the statement,
Scarlet 2, Violet 2.
I think the statement is worded in such a way that it includes that possibility in the future. So they can have any Tera type. That doesn't mean that you can catch that in the wild, or it will be immediately available.
What Greg just said is what I've been arguing for months. Yes, they can be every Tera type, but that doesn't mean that. Like, I'm assuming 400 Pokemon. I don't know. I did not look at the leaks, but I don't think if there are 400 Pokemon that all 18 will be available. And we know this with Charizard. They're saying Charizard is in the game. He's only dragon. There's, as far as we know, there's no way to get an electric Charizard. There's only dragon Charizard. So unless there's some weird thing with breeding where you put like I don't know what breeds with Charizard.
Everything breeds with Charizard.
An Electros and a Charizard in a daycare. Does that give us an electric Charizard? Like, we don't know that. We don't know how breeding works with Tera types. But if you can only catch one Charizard, and it can only be dragon, well, and you go to the competitive ladder and you're playing and you see a Charizard, there's no water Charizard available. Only dragon.
I don't think they've used the phrase without thinking about it.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that, like, I am just saying I'm not the phrase of like all Pokemon can be all Tera types. I do believe that. But with the caveat that all Pokemon can be all Tera types when Game Freak says they can. Like Charizard cannot be water until 2 years down the line where a water Charizard event is available, which I think leads to the Eevee stuff. I don't think you're going to be able to go around Paldea and find all 18 Tera Eevees before this event starts. I'm sure there will be raid dens that'll have fire, water, grass. But if you want a bug Eevee, I don't know if there's going to be a raid den that gives you a bug Eevee.
It's not just raids though, because like, yeah, I've heard you make this point. I think that's fair, saying that not all not all Pokemon will be available in all Tera types in raids all the time, because that would be a ridiculously large pool, right? Like, not all Pokemon are going to be in raids full stop all the time. But I think you're forgetting, or maybe you're not forgetting, maybe you're just assuming something different. Like what are they called? This version of Brilliant, what are they called? The glowing Pokemon. Is there a name for them?
I don't know if they have a name for it. The Super Saiyan ones, though.
Yeah, the glowing ones.
I mean, they used to be called Brilliant, so...
Brilliant was in Sword and Shield, but Brilliant just assumed that it could have an egg move. It's a different concept.
Yeah.
I don't...
But anyway, whatever these ones are, right? The special Tera type ones outside of raids. I mean, why are you assuming that not all Pokemon will be available like that?
I am assuming that, yes.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
I assume
I assume that only based off my pure instance of walking into a Pokemon, getting defeated by it, running away, and it's still sitting there.
Sure, but you can catch it, right? And our news Pokemon's going to spawn there. Like, I'm not saying that you'll be able to get them all really quickly. I think it would take a lot of work, but I would be very surprised if, obviously, every Pokemon that spawns in the wild, right? That's a key important point there, because not every Pokemon in the game spawns in the wild. Every Pokemon that spawns in the wild, I am assuming, and I don't know, I have looked at some of the leaks. I apologize. I did it before you asked me to be on this episode.
It's fine. I've looked at the leaks too.
I have not. I am pure of heart, pure of mind, pure of soul.
I have looked at the leaks, but it has changed nothing in how I think this is working. But I haven't looked at mechanical
it's
leaks.
definitely changed. It's definitely changed something for me, but I don't know about this. We don't know information about this at all from the leaks, and that's whether. What was my point?
I was as I was thinking of this, I will say that most leakers only care about leaking Pokemon, not necessarily mechanics.
They do.
Right.
I really hate, because it really annoys me. Like, if you're gonna data mine the games, data mine the stuff that I care about, right? Like,
Tell me how the eggs
about
work.
Pokemon, leak the Pokemon, but there's only so many of them. Leak the important information.
Let
right?
me know how I
it
can
takes
change
so
my
long to
shoes.
leak
Leak the clothing catalog.
Yeah, I've got
Give
to
me
get my list,
something.
right? I do my completionist list for all these things. I need to get this information. No one's leaking it.
Leak
Yeah.
the sandwich decks. Can I put
leak-
salami on these Pokemon?
Where leak all of my meat and cheese choices. This will
Can I put
determine.
yogurt on my sandwich?
I need to know if there is version-specific meat,
I need to
because
know
there
if
was
there's
version-specific
mustard.
curry stuff in the old game.
Are we doing brown mustard or yellow mustard? This is the
Always
information
brown
we
mustard.
need to
this
know.
is Europe. You don't do yellow mustard in Europe. They don't even know what that is.
That's not true.
No, it is true.
What's
Yellow
the French?
mustard
There's a
only
French kind of
exists in
mustard that's
America.
yellow.
Nobody likes the French.
What
The
was
best
point
bit
we were
is the
making?
most common
point-
mustard that is like for we get American mustard for hot dogs, but the best bit
yeah.
of it, the most common company that makes American mustard is a company called French's
Yeah,
here.
well,
So it
French's.
says
French's-
French's American mustard,
Yeah.
which is just a ridiculous sentence.
French's is one of the big ones here.
Okay,
like
so
French's
even
mustard. Anyway,
let
the point I think the
Sorry.
point getting back to the point is I agree with Al in that I think the sparkly, shiny, brilliant ones that you can run into the wild have the potential of being any of the Tera types.
Oh, see, that's what I was going to push back. Like, if the Super Saiyan
Interesting.
Jigglypuff they show in the trailer, I don't think it's going to be all 18.
I think it has the possibility of being
I
all
think it
18
is.
if it's in the wild.
Yeah, and that was my point was we don't actually know that. I don't know for certain.
Right, we
Nobody's
don't
data
know.
mined that information.
Right.
But I'd be surprised if they weren't, because if you think about it, most of the raid events were about getting Gigantamax Pokemon and getting shiny Pokemon. All of those you could technically get at any point in the game. It was just really hard to get.
Are you okay? So let's go to the Jigglypuff example. That begs the question of if Jigglypuff can be Super Saiyan, and who knows if the other 5 Pokemon on that route could also be Super Saiyan. Like that's
Yeah, which is another assumption.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we
right.
don't know.
We have no clue if it's only Jigglypuff on that route or if
Yeah.
it's the other 5 or 6 Pokemon. How does that work? Is it 100 divided by 18? Is it 20% fairy, 20% normal, 2%
think it
dragon,
matters.
2% like. And
I
like,
mean,
it doesn't change the fact that they would all be available. If they're all
True.
available, they're all available.
Yeah, I mean, I think that like it's normal 2 typings are like 50% of what you'll run into, and then the rest are some percentage. Like, let's be real. This is a company that still does catching percentages for no good reason, right? Like, they make things unnecessarily complicated. There's no reason to think they aren't going to make this unnecessarily complicated as well.
But there's also no, yeah, exactly. There's no reason why they can't say all the Jigglypuff in the wild can only be these 6 Tera types. If you want the other 12, those are in raids.
They could. I don't.
Sure, they could, but I don't think they will.
I don't think they will either.
Because I don't think that all the raids will have all the Tera types either. I think they
accept
will.
that.
I think they will still limit it where if you want, a dark type Eevee, that can only be available this weekend. And there was pushback of
I don't
people
think
being
so.
like, they're not going to limit Tera types to raids because then what if you miss the raids? Well, they're already doing that with Charizard. Like, if you want Charizard,
Yeah,
you got
I
2
don't-
weekends to get Charizard. And if you miss it,
I don't think they-
if you miss it, you can trade for it.
Yeah.
Like, but they're
I
not
don't think they
scared.
wouldn't
They're not
do that.
scared to do a raid that might be competitively viable and be like, well,
Yeah.
you missed it, so good luck, go trade for it.
Yeah.
I mean, they have done
It's
that,
not that I don't think they wouldn't do it. I think they won't do it. I think that there's a key difference there. Like, I think that they absolutely could, and I'm not saying they wouldn't do it in a future. I'm saying I don't think that's the case for this game.
I think we kind of look at a lot of how they did raids before, and they, like Al said, they made certain things that are difficult to get through other means easier. Like, we look at the Charizard, but they're making a Charizard and saying you can't get this in the game. Like, you can't find it in the wild. And I think we can't draw a lot from that example to what could happen to things that are in the game in the wild and are sparkly weird. Like, I think that's a tough cavern to guess across.
Okay, but here's
every Pokemon. I was just going to do
one more
if
example.
Every Pokemon. Okay, you.
Okay, one more example. Like, let's say there's a Voltorb, and the Voltorb appears on a route but can never be Super Saiyan, but then appears in a raid, and the raids that let's say it appears in the upper left hand. I'm just picking, like, let's just say upper left hand, and those raids can only be ice, rock, and ground. And Voltorb can appear in that, so we know that it can be in an ice one or a ground one or a rock one. But it can't be Super Saiyan in the wild. That is restricting what Tera types it could be.
But that's a lot of assumptions.
That's assuming that they aren't going to be, like, every Pokemon can't be Super Saiyan in the wild.
Right. I guess that's the question we have. Can every Pokemon in the wild be Super Saiyan?
And, I mean, so if we look at the games before this, do we know that Pokemon in the wild, were any restricted that couldn't be brilliant, that couldn't have the weird glow around them?
The static ones? There were. That's the thing. There was static ones in the wild area. Like, that Snorlax that spawned on that bridge could never be brilliant. I'm almost positive.
Yeah, I'm asking
for 3 years.
I
don't think it was ever brilliant.
I don't know. I've not looked into that.
Yeah, but could you not get Snorlax in another way? Was that the only Snorlax you could get in the game?
Oh,
because there was difference. Because there were ways to get Roselia. There's the static one that always appeared, but there were other ways to get it as well. So,
but that static Roselia only appeared on weather. Well, I guess technically Snorlax appeared on weather.
Snorlax only appears on weather.
Well, Snorlax is all weather except for fog. When it was fog, it was Clefairy.
Right, but that
was the only Snorlax in the game.
So I mean, there's a lot of questions. And
to me, it seemed like the Pokemon I ran into, that I still can't talk about because it's a new Pokemon, that was glowing. It felt like a Snorlax. It felt like that Pokemon was always the Snorlax on that route, or it was there because the weather was a certain way. But if it's always there in that weather. But if it's rainy, it's this one, and then. But
it's also hard. It's also hard because they were giving you a specific build.
They were, and when I saw the beginning of the game, this is not a spoiler, I promise. Saw the beginning of the game when I played it, and then when I watched somebody on Twitch do the beginning, I was like, those Pokemon were not there when I played.
Yeah,
you gave me a very
So it
curated.
This is kind of like we're in the weeds in it because. At this point, it's a fun to speculate because literally there are so many things that we are assuming that we can draw parallels based off of past games, right? Like we can look at what the wild area and the raid dens were before this and say they're gonna most likely, because most companies do this, build off of those ideas. But they could be like, you know what?
Yeah.
We didn't like any of those ideas, and people didn't like them either, so we're going a new direction. Like it's really hard to say. I would say it feels like the things you can catch in the wild as a sort of exciting hunt thing, that anything that could be brilliant in the wild, leaving static if there are static ones in the game. I'm assuming they're going to be, but again, leaving those aside, those have the potential to be any Tera type, to have sort of an exciting extra collection, extra thing to be like, hey, I I searched for 57 hours and I finally found a dragon Grievard.
Yeah.
Right? Like, that is a thing I can see them absolutely doing. So I think the things we feel safe on is their wording is specific. I do think there will be a way to change Tera types in the future in a DLC, because that is the pattern they've set up. I don't know we have much to go off of for anything else.
I think we're missing the important thing here, and that's that the dragon hat looks great.
Oh yeah, I have seen one new hat that they were like, you can't talk about new hats, and I wish it was the dragon hat is tight. It's really good.
And second thing I want to question is, have we seen any Pokemon with like things coming out their heads with a hat on yet? Like, for example, Grievard. Will the hat be above the candle, or will it be on the head with the candle like inside the hat? Like glowing through the hat.
I don't think we've seen
I don't know if we've
that.
seen it. I'm trying to look on the picture of Charizard where the ears and the horns are, and they look like they're hidden. It's
Inside
really
the
hard
hat,
to
yeah.
say.
I mean, the whole National Dex happened because they didn't want to put a hat on Wailord, so they're like, well, we're not going to bring Wailord in the
Yeah,
game. We don't have to
valid.
worry about the hat. I actually don't know if they showed Wailmer or not. I just think a
don't
big
like-
Wailord with a hat would be very funny.
I don't like any of
Did
the
I say
hat
that
versions.
Eevee is November 24th through
we said
27th? It does show a grass, fire, water Eevee in the screenshots here, but we don't know if there will be a fairy or dragon or we don't. I guess we don't know.
It says
We don't know.
various.
It says various.
It says
yes.
various.
I don't know what that means.
I've yet to see any of the hats that I like.
But the title of it says Special Tera Raid Battles increase your chance of encountering certain Pokemon or Tera types. Obviously,
that or does a lot of work there.
yeah,
Yeah.
the or
The
is working
The
hard
or
in
is
that sentence.
lifting the entire sentence and carrying a whole lot of wiggle room on its back. That's absolutely
We
for sure.
need we need a break to carry a little wiggle room for the show. So we will take a quick break. We will come back. We're gonna talk about the Pokemon Home stuff, Rotom stuff, and then the Donphan stuff. So we will be right back. And we are back. Okay. So the other
From
thing,
our break, you can't
sorry.
cut things off like that. It's like torture.
I
when
didn't think
you
we
don't
spent 40
complete the
minutes
sentence.
on Charizard raid battles.
Yeah, but you can't take a catchphrase and then just drop it in the middle. It's like horrific.
Okay. We talked about Gimme Ghoul. They have Gimme Ghoul in this press release, but we talked about that.
Yeah, give me go.
Yeah. Scarlet Book and Violet
I
Book.
love Gimme Go.
The Scarlet Book appears in Pokemon Scarlet. The Violet Book appears in Pokemon Violet. I'm just
What?
saying that just because, there was a black and white situation where you bought black, you got Reshiram, you bought...
True. That black and white was the bait and switch generation.
And then if you went to Switch games in Black 2, White 2, you got double screwed.
You got tricked all the way down.
Yeah, I did that.
Yeah, they really get you. They got you twice in that. This expedition is said to have traversed an uncharted area of the Paldea region. Whether or not the accounts depicted in the books are true, it remains unclear. Photographs and sketches of unidentified creatures to fill both pages of the book, and while there are sightings of similar creatures in recent years, such reports are rare and specific details around their biology are still a mystery. For Scarlet, they showed off a creature called the monster known as Great Tusk. The Scarlet Book describes how savage the savage monster attacked expedition teams with large body and tusks, mortally wounding one of their explorers. It is literally saying this monster has murdered somebody.
Recently, Pokemon's all about how many people can we murder in our ads and people will still buy our games. Because they are killing people left and right.
The monster known as Iron Treads, it is said in the Violent Book, this monster curls its body.
Book, not the Violent Book.
What did I say?
Book. Violent.
Violet book monster curls its body and rolls to attack. It leaves a trail gorged into the ground as it has scorched the earth.
This feels
Okay.
a lot like Legends Arceus, is all I'm going to say.
Oh, like, what are they called? Nobles? Oh, I don't...
Well, not just the nobles, but it's a book that has like information about expeditions
Oh, I see.
and
Yeah, yeah.
discovering Pokemon and stuff. It feels a lot like what you do in Legends Arceus.
Okay, so there's some speculation here of what this is. Of course, there are some people who saw leaks, so they know more than that. Obviously, if you're listening to the podcast, we're going to go the speculation route. Look, I played Scarlet and Violet 2 weeks early and had to record 2 podcasts, speculating what I did or did not know. And I was, people were like, wow, you did a really good job at convincing us you didn't know. So I never want to if people are avoiding spoilers, I never want to just flat out say stuff. I know the people who want that stuff, they just look at.
My first thing from the trailer and from this phrasing, the uncharted region is the big cloudy part in the middle, right? Like they fly out of it in the trailer. I feel like that is just saying we're not going to tell you what's in the middle until you play the game. It's going to stay in
I think for
mystery.
me, it says that the middle is an actual area you can explore, not a giant hole in the region, which I think
but I'm
was
saying
what
like
I thought maybe 2 months ago of like, oh, there's just a giant hole
There's just a giant
here.
hole. This is the donut hole region. I mean, it makes sense that that's the uncharted mystery to me. Like, I felt it was interesting that they showed you flying out of this deep clouded area.
I feel like what this did painted a picture that there's like this deep like forest and caves in that center that you can't see because of the fog and clouds.
Forest and caves in the past version, high-tech computers and munchlax with hot dog machines in the Violet future version. It's 2 different ones. They're displaced in time.
The monster known as the Great Hot Dog Machine.
Yes, the Great Hot Dog Machine has come to life.
I want to say, obviously, these Pokemon look like Donphan. I wouldn't be surprised if Donphan was trending on Twitter that day. I've never seen so many people excited for Donphan.
People love Donphan, and I have no idea why.
The ancient one looks like Donphan. I'm not really sure the future one looks like Donphan. It does in its sketch, but in its actual model, it doesn't look anything like Donphan, other than it's got a vaguely similar color scheme.
Well, I mean, it has a snout and it rolls. That's Donphan.
It's got the snout. It's got the tusks. It
has
got
that
angry
weird
looking
digital
eyes.
Face from Pixar. What's that? Wally. It has like a weird like what's Wally's girlfriend? The white robot. I felt like it has like a very face
Eve.
like that. Eve, yeah. It has like a weird digital face. It seemed like the general consensus was a lot of people were on the Violet fence with Miraidon over Koraidon, but in this instance, it seemed like everyone was very into the Scarlet prehistoric-looking Pokemon versus the futuristic one.
Yeah. Look, I don't want to live in the past. Give me the future.
Which I don't know if Donphan or a Pokemon that looks like Donphan is enough to convince somebody to switch versions. Don't know. But what I do know
so it doesn't matter.
Is that they've done some weird marketing like this before. And we were saying this a little earlier in the break. They did this with Ultra Beast. So they called like UB01, UB02. Wasn't like but they also had like names. It was like UB08 poison or whatever. Like it was like this long string of names that they used in the marketing, but in the game they didn't like kind of mention it at all. It was just like, this is Poiple, this is
I think they talked about them when you were sent off to catch them. So they were like, oh, you need to go and catch this one, UB01, whatever. And then, well, obviously you didn't catch UB01. That was in the story. But anyway, I think you only found out the name once you actually caught it.
Yeah,
right,
I
which is
think
very like Legends of like we don't know what
Yeah.
this is, but like we know what this
We
is
know what it
'cause
is.
Yeah.
we know that it's Donphan. But I don't know. I don't know if the game's going to be like I find it hard
Like
to
Wiglet.
believe that you catch prehistoric Donphan, and then when you send out prehistoric Donphan in a battle, it says the monster known as the Great Tusk. I find that hard to believe.
Yeah, I don't think that's
That's going to
happen.
be its final name.
Well, it's obviously not going to put the monster cup. I could absolutely see them saying Great Tusk.
Yeah, I could see that, but we all know
Especially if like
it's
because like we
Donphan.
all know there's weird stuff around like this being like kind of the past and future stuff, and like Greg was mentioning like the displaced in time doesn't really exist sort of thing. I mean, maybe it just doesn't really exist in and of itself. Why would you give it a name if it doesn't really exist and you only have the one in existence?
Yeah, I guess my question, like, let's say the Donphan's known as, you catch it, you send it out, it says Great Tusk. I think that's a little weird. Like in 8 years, are we gonna be like, hey, I miss Great Tusk? Like, are you just not gonna say like I miss the prehistoric Donphan? Like,
I mean,
I don't know, a name's a name.
we call things dumb things all the time.
Yeah.
like Iron Treads, like, oh man, Iron Treads really like.
I mean, no one's going to say that full stop.
Right.
No one's going to say Iron Treads is great, right? Like, they're just not.
Again, it just kind of reminds me of the UB thing where, people aren't saying like UB04. They're just saying Naganadal, Exurgatree.
Look, I'm going to say this. UB04 is a lot easier to say than a lot of those names.
Yeah, a lot of people struggle with Blacephalon. That's true.
Yeah, but can you remember which one is which?
Oh, no, not at all. I
know,
think
look,
UB02
I
is
am
Buzzwole.
already-
One is Pheromosa. That's the only one I can remember.
Yeah.
Yeah, Pheromosa is 1, Buzzwole's 2. I know that for sure.
Isn't 3 the Lily one? Whatever its name is?
3 is Nihilego?
Sure.
Yeah. That would be good bar
I like-
trivia. This would be like...
As I was saying yesterday that I don't remember much of my childhood cereal habits because I erased all that to put Pokemon names in my brain, and I have no more room for matching numbers and names. Like, I'm done. The more I have to remember Pokemon stuff, the less I remember about growing up. In some cases, that's good, but I don't get to pick and choose what I forget, and that's the bad part.
I had speculation, and nothing has changed. And I did not see these Pokemon early, for the record. Nintendo was very adamant when I played the game to do a Titan battle. And when I did the Titan battle against Cloth, which we know is Titan, I didn't defeat it. I got it down to like 10% HP, and then Cloth ran away. It like ran down a path that was very obvious to go follow it, and then Nintendo was like, "Do not follow it." And I was like, "Oh, okay, do not follow the Cloth." So it was obvious that I was going to battle Cloth again. But the thing that I asked them is, Cloth did not have a level at all, no level. Although, to be fair, you could argue that raid Pokemon do not have a level when you go into a 3-star or 4-star or 5-star, but they do. They do have a secret level. We know that 5-star Pokemon have, I think they're like 65-ish for a 5-star. And then we didn't talk about this, but that Charizard raid is a 7-star, which I think, if there's any takeaway from this entire podcast, I think Al made a really good point of like, it seemed like they wanted to do this with Urshifu and Mewtwo and Zeraora, and they didn't have a way to code that in, and now they figured it out, right? So Charizard's a 7-star, and I think people were saying that, or somewhere it said that Charizard would be level 100. So
I know that I'm pretty sure the Zeraora was actually higher level than normal 5-stars, even though it was a 5-star
yeah.
in Sword and Shield. So presumably if they did that again, it would be a 7-star or 6-star or whatever.
I had the theory, playing my experience, that the gyms were left in a not level scaling traditional sense for people who are coming back to Pokemon games, which happens more times than people give credit for. Like, people step away from the series for 5, 6, 3 years. They come back. They want that familiarity. And to me, it felt like the Titan battles were like the new things that scaled. But I don't know. Maybe the Cloth was actually level 20. They just never showed what the level was. It will always be level 20. But there is an illusion that, like, you don't know what the level is. So, like, how do you even prepare for it?
But, I mean,
because it doesn't show you.
We know that has to have levels because that's how the games work.
Right.
Like,
but on the back end, it could be
it.
that the game reads your level,
right,
and it rounds it up or down. Probably not. That's giving Game Freak a lot of credit.
It probably is run like the raid dens, in which the levels jump up when you do
technically
X, Y, Z benchmark.
the DLC did read your data, and it did jump up accordingly.
Yeah.
So they did. They only did 2. It was did you beat Leon? Did you not beat Leon? So again, they could. When the DLC came out, Sword and Shield was already established. That base code was already there. There maybe wasn't a way to be more precise in, like, do you have 2 badges? Do you have 4 badges? Do you have 6? They figured out the raid stuff. They were like, we need 7 stars. There's probably going to be 6. We need 5 stars. So maybe they figured out something here. But we're assuming that the Great Tusk and Iron Treads are Titan battles, right? Like,
yeah, I mean,
they've shown one Titan battle. We've shown one Titan battle since then, and obviously there will be more.
I mean, what is your
I say that
assumption
because
based on?
the assumption is Arvin has the book, and Arvin is the one that introduces you to the Cloth.
Yeah, okay, but also Cloth isn't. It's not implied that it's mysterious in the same sort of way. Like, I'm not saying I don't think there'll be Titans, but I'm also saying I'm not. Like, I would expect. So if we look at, like, if we take Legends with the Titan what were they called? The Noble battles.
Nobles.
Right? Like, not all of your new Legends Pokemon were, even though there were like a handful of them, they weren't all Noble battles. There was like a selection of them that were. And so, like, there might be more of these, some of which are and some of which aren't. Like, I just don't think we have any kind of indication. Like, the Cloth was very definitely big. Like, it was a big boy.
Yeah, I think Cloth is the introduction to Titans, and I would assume that they're the thing that I also, again, I don't know how many Titans there would be. I don't know how many Team Star people there would be. Although the everyone is saying there's 5 Team Stars because it's based off constellations or something.
It's a 5-pointed star.
Oh, well, that too.
There's 5 points on a standard star. It's a 5-pointed star.
Okay, so very likely that there are 5 Team Star members.
5 Team Stars.
We know for sure there are 8 gym leaders.
Yeah.
The thing that they haven't told us is how many Titans there are.
Yeah, I mean,
we know one. We know Cloth.
We know Cloth. It is possible, and like to kind of like go off of what Al is saying, it is possible that much like alpha Pokemon exist in Legends Arceus, these are alpha Pokemon that exist in the Uncharted region. There may be more of them instead of one Titan. They may be alpha type Pokemon that exist in that region, and there be multiple of them. So, like, again, we don't know which way they're going. Is it a single battle against a super large one, or are they spawning alphas that have, you know, unusual names because it's in this uncharted territory? I don't know. People probably do know because.
But also, instead of doing B in one game, Alistair in the other, they're doing Great Tusk in one game,
right?
Iron Treads in the other. Which,
well, yeah, I think that's a fair assumption. Whether they're Titans or not, that's I think that's pretty clear. You have an ancient-looking Pokemon, a future-looking Pokemon, and two games that have those same styles.
It's because they tied it to Arvin's storyline, which they did through. We didn't say this.
Fair.
The trailer that we're watching had no dialogue, no people talking. It was just Ed Sheeran singing for 4 minutes. So, like, even in the press release, I read it to you guys. It says, here are the books. One book is Great Tusk, one book is Iron Treads. But the unspoken thing is Arvin is the one holding these books. And Arvin is the one leading you through the Titan stuff, presumably leading you through the Titan stuff, because he's the one that says, like, you should battle Cloth, right? He's like the one that says you should battle Cloth. The girl with the weird armband, I can't remember her name, Neoma, is the one saying, like, we should do the gyms.
Yeah.
And then I don't know what's implying that you should do Team Star, but we know.
The girl that doesn't come to school.
Oh, the one with the backpack.
Yeah, whatever her name is.
Yeah, she's probably the final Team Star boss. They made her all cute and cuddly, so she destroys you at the end. Do you before we move on from the Violet and Scarlet book, does this change any form of excitement? Like, it's kind of weird that they show two Pokemon based off Donphan in a trailer with Ed Sheeran. And not that Ed Sheeran's bad, it's just like most of their trainers...
Curious where you're going with this.
Most of their trailers explain it a little bit. There's no explanation here. It is just, here are two Donphans, Ed Sheeran's in the background. We hope you buy our game.
Yeah.
Like, it feels like this, like they should have maybe explained what you're going. Maybe they don't have to. Maybe people are just so excited.
I think they're just going for the intrigue at this point. Because, like, I also think there's definitely got to be something to do with, like, there is no... I want to talk about Wiglet, right? There's no coincidence, right, that Wiglet looks like Diglett, and they talked about that in the stuff they did. And then we have, here's two things that look like Donphan. Like, these things, I feel, have to be connected somehow.
So you don't
like,
think...
It's not just like...
You don't think that Great Tusk is going to be Paldean? You think it's similar to Wiglet, as in, like, it looks... Everyone thinks
possibly.
Yeah. Okay, I see what you're saying.
Possibly. I don't think that Wiglet just happens to look like Diglett. I don't think that they've just gone, this is, we'll just design a Pokemon and oops, it looked like Wiglet, right? Because when they talked about it, when they actually talked about what it was called and what it was, the whole point of that video was, it looks like Diglett. They actually say that in the reveal.
Well, and they say that in the weird Japanese one that never came to the... Yeah. We talked about that.
They don't say that and then not ever talk about it again, right? They don't say that without knowing what they're doing. They don't accidentally design two Pokemon that look exactly the same without knowing what they're doing with that and then talk about it.
Is this where I go on and I say that I don't think that the Cycle Czar evolves into Koraidon and Miraidon?
So evolves into or is related to?
I think related to is 1,000,000% possible. Because we have Carbink,
but not in a Carbink. I don't know. I don't think in a Carbink Diancie kind of.
Oh, you don't think?
No.
I think it's Carbink Diancie way.
To me, it's a Manaphy Fion way now. You can breed your legendaries and you get Cycler.
Oh,
but Cycler cannot evolve into.
Correct.
Interesting. I didn't think about that. I like that theory though. I'm very into that.
I mean, they are.
I don't think Cycle
somehow.
Czar evolves into Koraidon, Miraidon.
I still think that is a definite possibility, but I haven't seen leaks, so y'all are like, I don't think this is happening. And you all,
but
both of you have looked at the leaks and you actually know, and you're just leading me on. So,
but I do like how Al circled the Donphan stuff back to Wiglet, because I think
we've all just stopped talking about Wiglet.
Yeah, because it's bad.
No, wait, what? Are you out of your mind?
He's
long.
Look, I just feel
a lot of things are long and bad.
Evolution somehow.
Yeah, no, that's not true. Alolan Executor, long and great.
Nope.
Gigantamax Meowth, long and great.
Nope.
Wiglet, long and great.
Nope.
Oh man.
Here's the other thing. I just thought of. We've only seen one Paldean Pokemon, right? Am I wrong?
Yeah.
We've only seen Wooper?
Well, we've only seen Paldean Wooper.
Because everyone thought Paldean Diglett.
Right.
Yeah.
That is Wiglet.
Yeah, I'm just double checking the official list. Yeah. It's only Paldean at this point.
Yeah, there's only the evolution for Girafarig, which isn't Paldean, it's just an evolution.
Yeah, correct. Yes. So I think I would say that this marketing reminds me of X and Y, where they tried to not the thing about X and Y marketing, and I remember this very well because like when this podcast started, we started shortly after Heart Gold Soul Silver. No surprises there. It was just a remake. And then Black and White was coming out, and that was, the US and for Al, the Europe had to wait 8 months because it came to Japan first, and everyone else had to wait. So we knew, we looked at the entire Pokédex, and we saw everything, and we were building our teams. People wanted Chandelure on their teams, and people hated Sock and Throw before they came out. Like, people still hate Sock and Throw. But, like, there was 8 months of waiting for these games to come out to the US. And then the whole deal about X and Y was it was like this big worldwide game, and the Pokemon Company knew that, and they wanted everyone to experience and have these surprises at the same time. And then that game leaked, and, it leaked in various ways. Everyone, well, I don't know if everyone, but I remember the dude that got it in Canada. His friend sold it from GameStop, and he was posting things on Instagram, and people were running to Instagram to see, like, what these Pokemon evolved into, or to see Skidoo for not the first time, but, like, to see, like, these new Pokemon through Instagram posts. And then all of a sudden, his Instagram disappeared, and the word on the street was Nintendo, sent him to Azkaban. But they did a pretty, we're going to show you enough to get you excited, but we want to save all these surprises and secrets for you. And then in the Sun and Moon era, they went the complete opposite. It felt like every week they were showing 2 to 3 new Pokemon. And it was every week we were getting something new. And it was like, whoa, here's everything. And then for Sword and Shield, they kind of took steps back. And for this game, it feels like they went all the way back to X and Y, where they were confident that they don't have to show a lot to sell these games. Maybe because they were so confident in the fact that these games are open world, and that's what people wanted. And they had a huge ego boost from selling 26 million copies of Sword and Shield. Like, just a reminder to everyone that Sword and Shield are the second best-selling Pokemon games of all time. And that has not been beaten in 23 years.
I also think the thing about Sun and Moon was happening during their 20th anniversary, right? Like, they were really hitting the 20th anniversary thing hard, way better than the 25th. So, like, I don't know that. I think their normal non-anniversary aspect of approaching games is to dole it out and keep the mystery. And Sun and Moon happened right when Pokemon Go was going to come out, the 20th anniversary, and so they were just really flooding the sort of engagement, excitement cycle of them celebrating the 20th anniversary. I think their normal way is doing it like they do for X and Y, like then it's for Sword and Shield, and like they're doing it here. I think because of the 20th anniversary, Sun and Moon are the exception to how they normally go about business.
Yes. I mean,
I agree.
It does. There's like Al and I couldn't help ourselves. We looked at some of the leaks. Totally fine, I guess. Whatever.
Some of the leaks.
There's even a leak channel in Slack that I refuse to go into.
Yeah, look, there's also studies out there that show that, knowing the ending of a movie doesn't technically ruin your experience of it.
So there are multiple studies that show knowing spoilers doesn't ruin your experience. And I want to stress, I am not against spoilers because I will be spoiling myself midnight on Thursday. I'm against the current leak culture of people who don't have the community's best interest in mind, who put things out months in advance, who put false things in with true things, who manipulate the community for views, for clout, to get people upset. That is the culture I'm going to get, and that's what I will not give into. I can wait. Like, people are like, have you looked at the leaks? And no, again, it's not because I hate being spoiled, like we will talk about shortly with the anime. That doesn't bother me. What bothers me is this culture beforehand of people who could give a flip about the fans and the community and are just trying to trick people or pull one over on people or do most of the various things that they do.
Yeah, these YouTubers or content creators, or a lot of the time they're not even that. They're out there for themselves, right?
Right.
How can I figure out how shiny hunting works before everyone else because I want those views.
Right.
I want that successful YouTube video to get the money, to get the subscribers. If I tell you how Wiglet evolves, I'm assuming Wiglet evolves, does that get me more retweets than somebody else because I said it first, right? Like they are not here for, satisfying people's, maybe there's one or two out there that are like trying to leak properly to, but like I watched a Twitch stream of somebody playing it, and they had 400 people. I promise you I'm not going to spoil anything. They had 400 people watching them play. And I laughed because in their stream title it said cartridge player, and I laughed because it was obviously they were obviously not running a cartridge, they were running an emulation of it, right? Like most people are running an and you can tell they're running an emulation because every time they use the move snarl, the whole game would like drop 1,000,000 frames, and it was like very jagged. And they had 400 people watching. They had no camera. They weren't talking. They were just playing. The game was running terribly. And I laughed because their stream title said cartridge. And everyone in chat was talking about, like, where's the site to get the emulation, right? Like, everyone was like, where can I download it? But I was watching this player, and for some reason, they had a team of brand new Pokemon, and they were obsessed with Fletchling. They, like, wasted all of their materials on a Fletchling. And they eventually caught the Fletchling, and then they decided they were going to use the Fletchling. And I'm like, you have so many new Pokemon, but you want to use the Fletchling? That's cool, whatever, man. And then I watched them attack a Hoppip. I'm pretty sure Hoppip's been shown off. But the Hoppip only knew Splash, and it was just splashing. And I watched him continue to growl this Hoppip. Growl. Lowering attack. The Hoppip doesn't have an attack. It's splashing. And I'm just like, have you, what, how did I get here?
Why did you get there?
I couldn't stop watching.
Yesterday,
because
like,
then
why
I watched
are you supporting these people?
And then I watched him attack a trainer who had a Mudbray. Mudbray's been confirmed. We love horses in the back. And this Mudbray just went through his team, just destroyed his entire... I was like, this man is going to lose to a level 14 Mudbray in front of 400 people. This is embarrassing. I need to see this through. But I think to myself, this person went out of their way to download an emulation of a brand new game to, in fact, get an audience to watch them. They don't care about Pokemon. It's like, maybe they do. Maybe they just haven't played Pokemon in 10 years and they forgot what the move Growl did. But, like, what are you doing, man? Like, what is your end goal here? Because if your end goal is to spoil it for people, you're doing a really bad job. And if your end goal is to, like, enjoy the game, maybe, I don't know, maybe you are.
You're also doing a bad job.
But also, I saw these players do the same for Sword and Shield, right? This is part of why Sword and Shield got a bad rap, because Sword and Shield, all these people were emulating it, and then Reddit and Twitter, these people that were so against Sword and Shield because of the national decks were saying, look at this. When you battle Zashi and Zamazenta, there's not even music. When you climb up this ladder, the game breaks. When you do this, the frame rate looks terrible. Yeah, because none of these players were playing on a cartridge. They were playing on a very poor emulation version, and that's what people are seeing. And look, if there was somebody who was actually playing with a cartridge, actually knew what they were doing, actually was trying to engage with their audience, they would actually probably help Nintendo out and be like, wow, people are excited. But the people running emulations with no talking can't even play the game. When you look at it, I sat there and I was like, I know this is emulation. I know this dude has no clue what they're doing. But if I was on the fence about Pokemon, that stream felt like it would hurt potential sales because it looks and runs so poorly, and there's no way to be like, I mean, if you know nothing about what's happening and you read in the title cartridge, like everything about that is just like, I understand why Nintendo's taking these streams down. It's not because they obviously they care about being spoiled, but it does such a poor job at selling this game.
It does a disservice to their game because it's not the final product. It does a disservice to the community because, you know, if people are on the fence and they're like, oh, I'm going to go watch the game, and it looks like trash, like, it frustrates me because, I read movie plots before I go see them if I think, I don't know if I want to sit through this, because it doesn't matter to me that it's quote-unquote spoiled, because I will have an experience watching the film that's not spoiled by me knowing. Like, part of films is how they reveal and tell you the story of how they got there. It's the fact that these people really just do not give any care about what they're doing for this franchise, for these cartridges. They are just doing it for themselves. They don't care if they're right. They don't care if they're wrong, because they're there to make a splash and disappear and watch the chaos that comes after.
And even with Legends of Arceus, same thing, right? People were running emulated versions early, and I tuned in because I'm curious behind like the thought process of what they're doing. And you know, you see these people with 400, 500 people watching them play Legends, and then the next day they switch to Fortnite or Call of Duty, and they have 3 people watching. Like, it's almost like, well, if I can stream this game early, which has obviously, like, whether or not you like Pokemon is a huge franchise with a huge fan base, and it attracts eyes. And it's like, the reason you have 2 to 3 people watching you play Fortnite is because you're not a very interesting streamer. You're not, like, and that sounds mean, but like, you know, there are plenty of successful Fortnite streamers out there. They're successful because they're good, because they're entertaining, because they're funny, because they provide some value. The value you are providing to streaming Legends Arceus early is no one else is. And as soon as other people are, or as soon as you switch, your value goes away. And even when you're streaming Legends, or in this case, streaming Scarlet and Violet, and 400 people are watching you lose to a Mudbray because you don't understand how Bulldoze works, your value is you're the only person right now streaming this, and you're not doing it very well. But yeah, it just it's frustrating because what Greg said, a lot of people are leaking because they were trying to take advantage and manipulate to get some sort of benefit instead of, like, you know, they genuinely care about Pokemon, or they genuinely care about their community in some sense. And it kind of goes back to like a month ago when I played Scarlet and Violet early, and Nintendo was like, well, you can play for an hour. Your appointment is 2 hours. And I saw all of these other people that had the same appointment as me going like, I played for 2 hours. I played for 3 hours. Like, why are you lying to your community? What benefit do you get that one person said they played for 1 hour and you're saying you played for 3 hours? Like, why? Like, it just frustrates me so much that people support, like, I don't know. It's just like this, well, I played for 3 hours, so watch my YouTube video. Like, what? You played for an hour, man. An hour 15 if you're being generous, because I don't know if you know this. You did a raid battle. I did a raid battle. Those raid battles are timed 10 minutes. It couldn't have been an hour raid battle. There's a 10-minute timer. Like, come on. Just, like, stop taking advantage of the people who have put you in this privileged position. It's frustrating.
This is the funny thing. Like, I wonder what their long-term strategy is with this. And I guess the answer is they don't have one.
They don't have one. Right. Like
Because
they
let me
don't.
tell you, I have that exact experience in other ways of getting a massive audience for a very short period of time. They don't stick around if you don't keep doing the same
Right.
thing. So, like, I got a massively viral TikTok once. It got over 1 million views, like insane. And my highest since then has been like 10,000. So if you don't keep doing the exact same
Right.
thing that they want, they won't stick around. It's
But
not
like,
they won't go, oh, I found your Lego building interesting. That's fine. I'll stay for your random political rants. Like, of course they're not going to do that.
right, right. I always think like the example of the darkness that people exist, where the people who bought a Harry Potter book or at the front of the line quickly read the back and then went up and down the line of people waiting, screaming what the ending was. Right? Like, these are these people. This is why I have and the stuff with, like, I was already kind of against people doing that to begin with from those examples, and then Sword and Shield really solidified the cold nugget I have in my heart for leakers, where I'm like, I give none of you anything anymore. I think you are a blight on fandoms at this point, because you are there to make people suffer more than you're there to bring them up.
Speaking of suffering, Pokemon Home.
Why am I still paying for
In
Pokemon
the surprise
Home?
of the century.
The latest battle statistics from Pokemon Scarlet and Violet will be soon available in the mobile device of Pokemon Home. From the app, players are able to view information about trainers ranking, frequently used Pokemon, online competitions. I don't know, somebody at Game Freak figured out that Pikalytics existed. Players will be able to see what moves, abilities, held items are being used in battle. This update is scheduled for early 2023. Compatibility. Oh, go ahead.
So I was just going to say, to be fair, this information was available previously. It was just only on their website, and like at certain points, like after certain competitions, they would put this information up.
Yes.
They don't have like an ongoing good. So this is good. I like this.
Compatibility between Scarlet Violet Home is slated for spring of 2023. There was I don't know what happened, but so many people thought that Home was supposed to come out for Legends and BDSP spring of 2022. It didn't end up coming until what, like June, or May
It was
or something.
late.
I can't remember.
It was late, but like
it wasn't that late. It wasn't June.
But I don't. They're, for the timestamp this podcast, they're saying spring of 2023. This is what I'm saying, because like
Yeah.
I felt like they did say spring of 2022, and then when I looked and when I researched, I couldn't find anything about spring. But I swore when they originally, and a lot of people did. A lot of people thought, I wasn't alone. A lot of people thought early, but they're saying spring of 2023. After players have linked either title to Home, they'll be able to transfer Pokemon between Scarlet and Violet to Home and bring Pokemon from past games into the Paldea region. Nowhere in here does it say if it touched Paldea, it can go back to Sword and Shield. Unsure of that. In the past, that hasn't been available.
Yeah, I'd be surprised. I mean, we don't. Again, clarification: we don't actually know whether they have any changes to the Pokemon data structure in this generation or not. I'm guessing they must do, because they have the Tera type. In which case, I don't see why they would change their strategy and suddenly have a backwards compatibility with it. But it's possible.
It's possible.
They have done some stuff, weird stuff with the Legends stuff.
Yeah,
where
I mean,
They
but that
yeah.
wasn't.
Legends
was
also a very
complicated,
tiny game.
Shall we say? True.
It is confirmed that linking Scarlet and Violet to Go will allow you to receive Gimmighoul roaming form in Pokemon Go. And then players who with save data from Legends Arceus, Brilliant Diamond, Shining Pearl, Sword or Shield, Let's Go Pikachu, Let's Go Eevee will receive a phone case, Rotom phone case, in the respective games. If you have all four, or in this case, 2, 4, 6, 7 games, you get all 4 cases. You're not getting a different case for Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee. One of those 2 games will give you the Let's Go Pikachu case. But it's not like you get to, if you have all the games, you get all of it. So you don't
Right.
get to just pick one. I know that was a frequent question.
I'm going to say that you clearly had a hand in designing these game cases. Because when flipped horizontal, the eyes don't go horizontal like they do in Sword and Shield. They stay in their vertical form.
Good.
So you're a garbage human for making that happen in this game because it looks bad.
Good. I'm glad. And that's pretty much it. Finally, there will be a day one patch for these games. It will go from 1.0.0 to 1.0.1. It should be about 1 gig big.
Recently have a day one patch?
I believe Sword and Shield did.
I think they all have.
Yeah, I think they
I
all
think
had
they
a
all
day
did.
one
Legends did and
patch.
BDSP both did as well. I think
Yeah, Sword and
BDSP
Shield
actually
did
had
because
2
it
day
had-
one patches.
Sword and Shield did because it had to add the missing music from the Sashi and Sama Senta battle.
Oh yeah. But no, BDSP had 2 day one patches. It was
did.
bizarre.
Yeah,
the day
and
one
oddly
patch is
enough,
already
that
on the
game is
servers, by the way.
still bad, even with 2 day one patches. Crazy.
I mean, there's a lot of bugs that they had to add to day one.
Hey, I do want to say one thing. Again, spoilers or not spoilers, the starters are shiny locked. I do want to say that. It's not Briefcase Simulator. I know some people spend $60 to turn on and off their game over and over in front of a briefcase.
Don't yuck their yum.
You do it. You know, honestly, Briefcase Simulator probably the best part about Diamond and Pearl at this point. You know, that briefcase was really well animated, looked beautiful, great colors. You can't do this with you want a different color Fuecoco. Too bad.
Too bad, as I said, you're gonna have to breed it.
There is the argument where people are like, I spent the money on the game, let me play the game how I want. But there's also the argument of, look, Game Freak wants you to explore the thing they made. Go do it.
I mean, it's not like they don't explore the game after they spend 60 hours opening and closing the
Is that
briefcase.
true? Because I have
Yeah.
talked to a lot of people who have never gotten past Briefcase Simulator, so I don't know if that's true.
Yeah.
It is true.
I don't.
There is somebody
I don't-
listening to the
I
show
think-
right now who is still hunting
Yeah,
a shiny
they may still
Piplup,
be
and
hunting.
they have
They'll
not
get it
seen the rest
eventually.
of Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl. To be fair, there's not a lot to see over there.
To be fair, they've had the best experience of Brilliant Diamond Shiny Pearl because the rest of us who went exploring were like, this is garbage.
I agree with the point that yes, you should let me play the game how I want, but I would also say it's not like they're not letting you get the shiny Pokemon, and it's just this one specific way of getting that Pokemon, right? Like breeding is a thing that has been in these games for ages, and also if you're the person who's like, oh, I really hope that we can do this, right? Give up. They're never going to give you a shiny starter ever again. It's just not happening. No starters and no legends will ever be a shiny in a Pokemon game again. It's just the way it is. Deal with it.
And for those saying, well, they did for Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl, the faithful,
Yeah, come on.
faithful
Al,
remakes.
Aren't you on the Shaman Shiny Hunt, Al?
I am.
So, and you just went on a rant
1020
about
resets.
getting over that they'll never have
Well,
shiny
like-
again
like
in
the-
any game,
the-
and you are literally not playing a game right now, so you can hunt Shaman.
I think you, Greg, I think you'll find this is my dedicated Shaman shiny hunting switch.
That's
I am
even worse.
not even joking.
That's
This is the
even
other switch that
worse.
I'm playing other games on.
Oh man,
Yeah,
this is the
I mean,
darkest
like-
timeline.
There, you know, if to me, and I don't know if this is the way Game Freak or the Pokemon Company or Nintendo thinks, is like, if your experience is only the first 5 minutes of the game over and over and over and over again, how can you fall in love with that game? And I think that's important to them. Of like, the reason that people have such fond memories of Heart Gold Soul Silver is because they went through the whole game. They reached it to Red. They had Pokemon following them. They saw Kanto again. Like, there are reasons why people's favorite Pokemon games are their favorite Pokemon games. None of those reasons are, I sat there and I turned on and off the game over and over and I got a slightly different colored Pokemon. Like, in order for Game Freak to get people to fall in love with a game, they have to see what they created. And they know people are doing this. That's why they locked it. They know people want specific shinies like Zygarde. They locked it so they can have a distribution, or in a future game, they can give it to you. This is intentional. This isn't because they don't care. They do care about how they control their own narrative to their own game. And it's the same with the national decks. They know that even though there was all that commotion on Twitter or Reddit or Discord or wherever people complained, they know that that decision was going to play out for them for their favor in the long run. They know that by taking away Pokemon and then reintroducing them, it gets people excited. Like, oh my gosh, my favorite Pokemon is finally coming back to this game, and I can go find them and get them. Again, I think it's we're pushing you to play this game because we're confident in what we made, and you will love it. And if you really want a shiny Sprigatito, you can still get it, just not here. Go out. It's almost like your parents when you were a child being like, go outside and play. Go do that. And then you can, when you come back, you can do whatever you want, but just get some fresh air, make some friends, rip your jeans playing tag, and then come back. Which their product. They have every right to say, like, we want you to do this. This is how we want you to do that.
Oh, you mean Game Freak? I thought, like, to be fair, your parents are your product. And I'm like, oh, now hold on a minute.
Well,
hold on a second. We're going to get into some deep parenting at this point.
Yeah, not the Game Freak, not the parenting. We need to take a break. We'll take one more break here. And then I don't think we'll spend a lot of time on the Ash stuff, but we do have to talk about it. And then, we'll wrap up the show. So we will be right back. And we are back from our break. I think we covered everything in regards to Scarlet and Violet. Also, the only thing I'm seeing here is the flying Pikachu. You'll still be able to get that within the first 2 months. You don't need Nintendo Online for that. You don't need to pre-order the game. Whether you get it the release of or for Christmas, you'll just be able to go to Mystery Gift to redeem the flying Pikachu. It is not a pre-order bonus. It is just I bought it before the allotted time, a bonus.
Early purchase bonus, I believe, is the way they describe that.
Okay, so at 4 a.m. a couple days ago, I got a press release saying Ash Ketchum has become the world champion. I got 2 press releases, actually.
Spoiler alert.
One of that being from the Pokemon Company, one of that being from Nintendo. So If you don't want to hear us talk about this, I guess skip through this. I'm just gonna read the press release. I watched the match. I don't know if we need to talk about the match, but I think we need to talk more about what this means for the future, which I guess no one really knows
Ash
what this means.
can finally die.
Anyways,
set free from his coma.
It says the boy from Pallet Town achieves his goal after 25 seasons, becoming the world's strongest trainer. Ash's victory in the latest episode, Pokemon Ultimate Journeys, the series premiered in Japan and will air worldwide in the future. In the latest season of the anime, Ash and Pikachu have put their training toward the test. As a result, Ash has officially achieved his goal of becoming the new monarch of the Pokemon World Coronation Series. This historic win represents a culmination of Ash's adventure in the Pokemon world, from countless battles to challenging quests spanning 25 years. Since the start of their journey in the Kanto region, Ash and Pikachu have faced numerous rivals, often coming in shy of a tournament victory. However, the pair have continued to forge ahead, with Ash securing the first title of Pokemon League champion at the Manalo Conference in Alola, signifying how far he has come as a Pokemon trainer. Ash's title of world champion is a significant pop culture milestone and a celebration for Pokemon fans around, this is their words, not mine, around the world who have remained committed to following his journey for 25 years. Quote, Ash Ketchum's determination and perseverance to achieve his goal of becoming the world's top Pokemon trainer over the course of 25 seasons represent that the very best of what it means to be a trainer, end quote, said Taito Okiara, Vice President of Marketing for Pokemon Company International. Quote, we cannot wait to celebrate this moment with Pokemon fans when the newest season of Pokemon Ultimate Journeys, the series, and this adventure-defining episode airs around the world in the coming year. This season, fans won't want to miss, end quote. Also, it says that this is exclusively to Netflix in the U.S. And, yeah. I think the Nintendo press release says ultimately the same thing.
I don't have an issue with the spoiling the thing in general. What I have the issue with is we didn't have the ability to watch it before the spoiling. Now I totally understand why they've done it this way, because like when he won Alola, they didn't publish it on any English news things, but it's
Correct.
still like we all knew immediately anyway.
Right.
But I guess so. I understand why the dub takes a while to air. I don't understand why it takes more time to air here than it does in America. It's the exact same thing, but let's move that. Interestingly, it hasn't for the most recent series. We had all the 12 episodes that are on US Netflix. We had them before they went to the US this time. The first time it's ever happened that I've noticed. But anyway, that aside, I don't understand why they can't have some ability for fans who care to watch a subbed version of it even the day after it launches in Japan. It doesn't have to be at the same time. I get they'll probably have some exclusivity around the same day. That's pretty standard. But the day after, like,
Yeah, I mean,
subbing would not be that big a deal.
the issue that I generally have with it, and like a lot of people were upset that they got spoiled, and I'm like, well, I mean, you have to face the fact that there was no way that this was going to stay under wraps,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Right,
they
yeah.
played it on giant TV screens outside in Japan. Like, it was not going to stay a secret. The issue that I have around this is they don't prioritize localization at all, because there are a ton of very popular anime series that have simulcasts, that have subs the day after, that go up immediately to help solve this problem. And it is a unique, it's weird because they're like playing both sides of the fields, because they're one saying it's not worth localizing it because it's just a kid's show, but you send a press release out to literally CNN and everybody else to say this is a major achievement. And they're trying to have both coins, both sides of the coin, but have the cake, whatever you want, whatever horrible metaphor you want. They kind of need to understand that the way they have a worldwide experience for their games should shift to having a worldwide experience for their anime. And it bothers me that they treat the anime so poorly. And I understand that it's not as popular as it is in Japan, and the deals that they made are worse, and they have to go through Netflix and these other third parties to get these on for whatever reasons. Like, they've made some, because they don't treat it like a valuable property, I think they've made a lot of bad deals with who gets to show their stuff. And again, I don't mind spoilers. I don't care that I know that he won. It doesn't ruin my experience. It annoys me that we will know this, and it will be probably a year before we get to watch it because they don't prioritize localization.
No, we're supposed to get it at the end of the year, before the end of the year on Netflix.
Have they said that for
Really?
sure?
Yeah, it just said it said.
No, it says in the coming year.
In the coming year. Sorry,
That's
in
a bit,
the coming year.
Because so far it has been, certainly in America, it has been 12 episodes every 3 months. And so we have still at least
20
40 episodes to go.
We are getting
let
new
me just double
episodes
check.
very soon, but yeah, I don't think it'll be the rest of them.
There are 30 episodes that are out, so that's more than 2 batches.
Yeah, I mean, like it's the spoiler stuff is kind of like when you saw the Masters 8 for the first time and you saw Cynthia and Iris and Leon and Ash. Like, there's no secret. It's Ash and Leon are the finals.
Yeah,
right. Like, to say like, oh, I wonder who's going to beat who. It's like, well, it's going to be Ash and Leon. Like
you say that, but they've not always done it that way. This has not been the standard thing. Like, I think that would have been the thing that made most sense for this series, based on clearly they want him to have progression now. They've clearly been improving him over the time, but like until Alola, you couldn't even guarantee he was going to be in the final.
Right.
Well, I would maybe say X and Y.
X and Y, he was in the final, but were you convinced when you were before that happened that it was definitely going to happen?
That I can't. I don't know of. I was surprised that Ash got knocked out so early in Black and White.
Well,
but
Yeah.
I watched a lot of Black and White. I didn't watch a lot of X and Y.
Teaser trailers, like, you can at least sort of say, hey, this is probably the most likely outcome, but they could still surprise me. Like, that's the whole point of a teaser poster. Like, is misdirection, hinting, let you speculate. This is a very different thing, and like, again, it's a thing that happened. They couldn't keep it under their hats. It's spoiled because it actually happened. I just wish they decided to make the anime a worldwide experience like they do their games.
Well, okay, with the spoiler stuff, we should be pretty clear here. In the sense of Alola, when Ash won Alola, the English Twitter tweeted just in like an image of like Ash, right? They didn't publicly say Ash won. They didn't acknowledge it, but not only did Polygon, Kotaku, Bulbapedia, like gaming websites pick it up and quote unquote spoil it, but mainstream media did. When Ash won Alola, that was on ESPN.com. Like, ESPN.com covered Ash winning Alola. And I think that was the turning point of them saying, well, we're leading to Ash having a bigger victory. He's finally going to achieve the one thing he was going for. I mean, a lot of people would argue that him winning Alola was kind of him achieving that in a sense. But, I mean, if you look at any sport, when the New York Giants win, that's a baseball team, I think. When they win, they don't go like, okay, we won. No, they want to win again, right? They want.
Yeah. Having said that, they do say in this press release that he has achieved his goal, and his goal was, he has always stated his goal, and they've been stating this throughout Journeys. His goal is to become a Pokemon Master, and that's not his goal is to win a specific championship. His goal is to become a Pokemon Master. That's not something. Becoming a Pokemon Master isn't something you do multiple times.
Yeah, I mean, just to finish my point, I think they knew that they had to say something because based on Alola, that this was going to be mainstream media. So even if you're the person on Twitter that's like, I muted Pokemon for the week, I muted Shiny, I muted Scarlet and Violet, I muted all of these things, mainstream media is still probably going to push in somewhere in your life where you're going to hear that Ash won. So, like, instead of what they did 2 years ago or whatever, when he won 3 years ago or whatever, when he won Alola, they were like, you know what? We're going to use this to our advantage, and we're just going to also just let everyone know that he won. Which, you know, what a coincidence. A brand new game is coming out next week, and they can use that to their advantage, marketing-wise. I mean, there is no secret that the anime is a huge propeller, as a huge force to selling merchandise and games and their card stuff. Like you could argue that the anime is a 23-minute commercial every week. we've seen the numbers. Over 60% of all of the money they make is from merchandise. So, again, they kind of knew that this couldn't be kept a secret because it would hit ESPN.com again. But like, I guess the question is like, where do they go from here now?
Right.
Well, this is the thing. I think the argument isn't they couldn't say anything. I think the argument is they need to be able to deal with that better in the future.
Yeah. Well,
and my hope is that they realized it was an issue after the Alola one, but the deals for the next series were already in place. They couldn't do anything about that. So I'm really hoping that they've sorted that for the next series coming, and they will have something like you say, Greg, with the simulcast or something.
It's really weird for a show that is really an advertisement for the new games that we don't get the new series until the games have been out for months here. Like, they don't localize it so that we are getting the Scarlet and Violet series when Scarlet and Violet launches worldwide. It has always struck me like, why have you not tried to get those aligned? And I do think it just speaks to the fact that they don't put a lot of thought or care into the anime as far as how it's marketed. They still treat it as a kid's vehicle.
I mean, I feel like they never did. Look at all of Diamond and Pearl anime.
Yeah.
It was some of the worst produced anime out there because they cut costs.
Yeah, I mean, there's like, animation's expensive. You can look at current popular animes that have vastly different qualities because of how they run their anime house. Like, it's a complicated equation. But there's now this thing where, like, this is worldwide news, and this is a good advertisement for your game, but you still won't take this thing and make it a localization. You won't make it a worldwide experience, and it bothers me. Is what it does.
Yeah, so the question is, they're not stopping the anime.
No.
That's very clear. The question is, what happens? Do they take a character that is undoubtedly, no one could argue, you could say that the Pokemon anime is complete trash and you absolutely hate it, and Ash is a bad character? That is a valid opinion you're allowed to have, but the facts are that Ash is one of the most recognizable standout anime characters in the world. Hands down. That people who don't know more than 2 Pokemon's names know that when they see Ash, that is the Pokemon guy. So do you...
Hey, is that Pokemon guy.
So they have experimented and have done semi-soft reboots in the anime with like Black and White. They also did technically a semi-soft reboot of the Black and White games. Obviously, that didn't really work out maybe the way they wanted it to, so they'll never acknowledge that was like kind of a soft reboot. To me, they kind of wanted to do it with Black and White, but they didn't fully commit there. The journeys opened up with Ash's room, and you saw his Orange Island trophy. You saw his Alola trophy. You saw his runner-up trophies. So for whatever reason, Pokemon fans like to argue that every season is a reboot. People like to bring up that Pikachu lost to Snivy time and time again. Like
that was explained in the anime.
I know.
You
literally said.
It literally is explained.
Very clearly well explained that there's a reason why Pikachu lost to Snivy. Yes, Pikachu is a much higher level than Snivy, but there was a reason in that episode that they clearly explained why he lost. Anyways, but like the TCG, weird comparison, I know it'll make sense, there has been an obvious power creep in Ash's ability and Pikachu. Like, Pikachu lost to Snivy in Black and White for a very clear-cut reason, because of Zekrom. And Pikachu has been getting stronger every single season. I would argue since Black and White is really where that soft reboot did kind of seem like, okay, Pikachu kind of has to like relearn and kind of get stronger again. And even one of the most fun things about Alola was Pikachu would almost always lose to Mimikyu, but then something broke up that battle. So you never actually knew how strong Mimikyu was. You never knew how strong Pikachu was because someone always interfered. But it did seem like Mimikyu had the advantage every single time. So do they start season 26 with Ash and Pikachu, and we have a true we have a true reboot, or they can just do the thing where Ash wants to pursue another championship, and that is totally fine and valid. Again, when a team wins a Super Bowl or a World Cup, they don't suddenly go, we don't need to win another one. Like there are like when Wolf Glick won the 2019 World Championships, he didn't go, I don't need to win next year's Worlds.
I mean, to be fair, some people do. Right. There are plenty of people like, I achieved this one goal and now I don't need to do it again. Do I think they're going to get rid of Ash? No. Do I think Ash will suddenly, after a year of exploring the world, everyone's like, oh, there's a region called Paldea? Because apparently we don't have a world map? Sure, let's go there for the first time literally ever because it's never been brought up before. I think they'll go there and there'll be a plot line and he'll be like, heck yeah, I'll do gyms here because I've never fought these people. Like
he's never fought Titans.
Like there's a million like they're not going to get rid of Ash, right? And Ash's motivations, and just because he achieved one thing, and he may decide, they may say like, we're going to make him a mentor role now. We're going to age him slightly and he's going to be leading somebody else on their journey in hopes to have them be powerful enough to take me down. Like, there's a million ways you can write that story. We don't know. But if you're thinking they're dumping Ash, they're not dumping Ash.
I agree, but I also want to say something. Can people stop saying Ash is 10? He is not 10. He has explicitly, in the anime, had a birthday, or not had a birthday, but celebrated the 1-year anniversary of when him and Pikachu met. They explicitly say that he is at least 11.
He's 11.
We don't have confirmation that he's any older than that, but he is at least 11. Stop calling him 10.
I thought they confirmed he was 11 in Alola. I thought that was like.
Yeah, I think they confirmed he was 11 in Alola.
I thought they confirmed that.
I can't remember it. I can't remember
because there was something about
he is at least 11.
The school having to be a certain age.
Here's the other two things that annoyed me. Right. I had to listen to the past year about how a new Eevee was going to be introduced because of Chloe. That never happened. We started off this podcast saying Charizard haters are the worst. Eevee lovers are the worst. They always think a new Eevee is coming. I'm like, there was no indication that.
I will say,
what they've done though.
Bulbapedia has not updated Ash Ketchum's age to past 10.
Oh, for goodness sake. I will say that I agree, right? Obviously, there's not another Eevee coming. But what I will say is I wouldn't be surprised if they used this Eevee to talk about Tera types.
I thought for the longest time that Chloe, the reason they didn't evolve it is because Eevee has a Gigantamax form. The evolutions do not.
Yeah. Or that, yeah.
Yeah.
But
that's fair.
The constant for the past year and a half of like, well, Eevee's Chloe, it hasn't evolved. Like, yeah, Chloe can't even make a decision what she wants for breakfast. You think she's going to be able to figure out what Eevee she wants?
And the point is the Eevee doesn't want to evolve. Like, that's kind of the point. It's not it can't, it chooses not to.
The other thing is, for the last 2 years, or I should say 3.
A break here. This is wild. On the official Japanese website for Journeys, they have Ash listed a 10-year-old boy. Still.
I mean, that none of that stuff surprises me because like The Simpsons exists.
I know, but
Bart has had like 7 birthdays.
But like they have specifically stated in the anime that his age has changed, but on their official website, they are still saying he's a 10-year-old child. It's just, I'm just pointing that out, like, they aren't consistent.
The people who hang on to Ash's age is really silly to me because, like, it's almost like, well, if he gets older, it will get better. His age is so irrelevant his age has
older, he's never getting smarter.
Like,
Also, you
Anyways,
don't want him to get that older because he will get into the moody teenager state. You don't want the moody teenager.
No, you do not.
Have you watched any of the Harry Potter? Like, Harry Potter's already unbearable at this point, but like, Harry did not become a better character when he got older. He got super moody, which, to be fair, maybe that's the one thing J.K. Rowling got right. She got a lot wrong, but a moody teenager is unbearable to read about. Like, I've been there. I don't. Anyways, for the last 3 years, we had to hear about how the main reason Go got introduced was to take over Ash's job, which I don't know where that theory or anything came from.
I have actually heard that theory. Now, it looked at them unusual at that point too, because why would you get rid of your main character, the literal the face of most of your marketing?
So here's the thing. Sometimes people ask for something and then they get it and they realize that's not actually what they wanted, even though they got exactly what they asked for. I was this way. Here we go. I'll admit I was wrong. As a child, as a 10-year-old boy watching the Pokemon anime, and while watching almost every single season of the anime, I thought to myself, it frustrates me so much that Ash doesn't catch Pokemon. Now, Ash does catch Pokemon he really wants, or in this case, a lot of cases, the Pokemon wants to join his team because he's caring or whatever, so he doesn't actually catch them. And it always bothered me. And I thought to myself, and there was a specific episode in Alola where Ash finds an Alolan Geodude and he tries to catch it and he actually fails. And like that episode is like really kind of fun because he tries to catch a Pokemon and he actually fails at it. And I'm like, man, I wish they would do this more often because like even though he didn't catch it, it was fun to watch him fail that catch. And then they introduce a character called Go. And I think Go is a great character. But I also think Go is a great character because he is the opposite of Ash. Go is very logical. Ash is very emotional. They have really good chemistry together. And Ash cares about battling. Go catches about catching. What I wanted as a kid was to see Ash catch more Pokemon because I thought that would be interesting. And after watching episode after episode of Go catching Pokemon, they have been right for 25 years. It is not fun to watch. It is inherently boring. And maybe it's because they made like Go catch Pokemon so easy, but it's not a particularly interesting anime trope. Like Go on his own, one, is not a compelling enough character. Well, two, it kind of made sense why they didn't make Ash catch a bunch of Pokemon. Because it's not great. It's not.
Here's
it's
the thing.
It's not fun to watch. It's like, okay, but
The reason why it's not great is because Go doesn't have a reason to bond very much with specific Pokemon, right? Like, the thing that you like in Ash and his teams and the limiting is you get to know the personalities of these Pokemon, except for Turtwig, which they just really did dirty that entire season. They're like, and then Turtwig exists. It's just going to be there. Nobody likes you. But like, Ash works great with other characters because Ash is a foil, right? Like, you need a foil against things. And Go is a really, really good foil for Ash. Go doesn't do well on his own. Just like Misty doesn't do particularly great on her own because the only thing they ever had to do was be angry at Ash all the time, right? Like, there's not a lot of characterization there until they split them off and then say they have the spectacular life when they come back in. Ash exists as a foil for certain things, and the people that they put with them are more effective or less effective as foils. Like, you could argue that Serena and Dawn aren't particularly great foils because they're just as impulsive sometimes, whereas Go is a good foil to shine the light on. Here is Ash's philosophy, but here's also the flaws with Ash's philosophy because you have a direct opposite. You have its foil. And neither one of them can stand very well on their own. Go is a boring character without something to struggle against. And since Go's thing isn't building a team, it is just collecting, you don't get the joy of knowing his Pokemon except for the two that he always carries with him, which is Cinderace and Grookey.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's pretty clear, right? Like, Go's not going to continue past this series, right? He's going to join
No.
Project Mew and move
Oh,
away.
well, the
What I f-
episode they introduced Project Mew, it was like you have started the
written
ending
the
for
end.
Go.
Yeah. They have an episode in the list of upcoming episodes called Project Mew. That's clearly going to be the one where he gets in, right? But what I will find interesting is, so obviously it'll be interesting to see whether they learn from that and have some good characters in the next season. What I wonder is, are they going to go back to what they did before, which was Ash and companions traveling through a region, or like what Journeys has been, which is, well, whatever this has been, like that we'll just suddenly be in Alola, we'll just suddenly be in Hoenn. Oh no, now we're back in Kanto.
I think from a storytelling perspective, it is more interesting for them to tell stories throughout the entire world at this point than focusing on one region. But it also, as a watcher, I felt like, well, Galar doesn't really exist, right? Like, it is just another thing that is there that they go to sometimes, and they really don't ever fully explore unless it's a very special episode. I will say, from like a writer's perspective, it is way more simple to be like, we're going to write a plot line that can only exist in this region and it makes sense in this region, and we can do a bunch of filler episodes in Johto for a while because we are literally out of things to talk about in Scarlet and Violet until something more interesting
I think on the premise, like it just seems like Scarlet and Violet are such bigger games than Sword and Shield ever were presented. Sword and Shield was like, this is our first big brand new game on Switch. We got a lot to learn. It was very linear. I'm never going to say that game wasn't linear. It was. It's fine. I'm okay with linear games personally. The wild area was something new, but in this instance of Scarlet and Violet, they were like, you got Team Star, you got the gym leader stuff, which apparently there are multiple champions. You got all the Titan stuff. You got the giant mystery in the center. You got big old primal Donphan. You have so many directions where it felt like we can do a lot in this region, where Galar was, well, do we want Ash going from this city to the city to the city? And then, like, what do we do? Like, it kind of, like, it almost, and that's not to say Sword and Shield are bad, but it felt like there was I don't know. There was a disconnect there of like, we want something bigger, and Galar cannot do that bigger thing we want.
They've never really followed directly the linear path of the games. Like, there's a bunch of cities that exist in the anime that are not in those games. So like to say like, what would they do in a Galar region? They would add a bunch of towns like they did in every region. Like, welcome to Dark City. Like, they've done a bunch of weird things where these towns, you're like, where are you? And what route are you on? You're in a mountainous area that doesn't exist. They could do it.
Yeah.
The question is, again, since we don't really know the actual plot line of Scarlet and Violet yet, it's hard to predict what their plot line of the anime will be, and how much they're going to keep it the standard plot line. Because like the Star stuff just sounds like a one-off episode, right? Like Team Star.
Oh, I don't think so. I don't think so at all. I think from what I've experienced, from what I played personally, not looking at spoilers, the second I battled Mela and everything to follow, which Nintendo was like, do not say anything about your battle with Mela. Like, you can say you battled Mela. The Star stuff was the most interesting story stuff I've seen in the last 10 years of Pokemon, hands down. I was like, I need to know more after that. Like
they don't. What I'm saying is they don't tend to take that into the anime.
They went really hard on Team Flare in X and Y for whatever reason, and Team Flare was a disaster in the games. It was so bad. Not to say that if like the anime Team Flare, if they moved on in the games, it would be better, because I don't think they knew what they were doing to Team Flare until they got to the anime. But they went very heavy on Team Flare. I mean, like, they didn't really do anything with Team Skull. I mean, they did, but not like...
No.
They didn't really do anything with Team Yell. I couldn't even remember their team. But again, those two teams didn't feel... Even in the games, they felt blah. Like they're not. I don't think they're bad teams. I think they're fun in whatever stereotypes they want to put them into. But like, they didn't translate to a start to finish story. They hit story beats, but they like no one saw Team Skull and was like, oh, I wonder how this dramatic story with them ended. It was just like, oh well, Team Skull's here again to like throw a wrench in the machine and like.
Yeah, but I mean, the leader of Team Skull did have a lot to do with the end of that game. Like, there was a pretty big, whole bunch of stuff that Guzma was doing with Lusamine. Like, there's a lot that happened in those games with that. The grunts, no. The people up top, absolutely.
Yeah, I don't think people connected the way that they should have, I guess. I shouldn't say should have. Like, I liked what they were doing with Guzma. I liked what they were doing with Lusamine. But if you ask the average person who played Sun and Moon what that game was about, I would argue that most people would not bring up that game had to do with abuse between adults and children.
Yeah.
I would argue most people didn't see that was the story they were trying to tell.
I mean, a number of people have said time and time again, like, there's a majority of people who are like, Sun and Moon is the better story because of these reasons. But again, what happened in Sun and Moon, they backed way off for the anime. None of that was in the anime. Lusamine was a very different mom in the anime than she was in those games. So it's really hard to say what they're going to take and what they're going to put in the games and what they're going to keep in the anime. So who knows what they're going to do. I think it is more interesting for them to keep the world an open world, as in all regions, than to tightly focus it into just Scarlet and Violet.
Oh, I agree. But who knows if they're going to do that. But I do agree. Here's the thing. I will say to wrap this up. In the episodes that they showed so far, you can see a brand new legendary for Scarlet and Violet in one of the posters. Which is obviously where Ash would be going next, would be to Paldea, right? So if there's anything that like would signify if Ash is continuing his journey, here's the twist. They get rid of Pikachu, but they keep Ash.
Yeah, Pikachu retires.
No, I don't think that's gonna happen. They get rid of Ash, but they keep Pikachu. That Pikachu just gets a new trainer. I think very obvious Ash and Pikachu are gonna. I don't think this means that Ash is done. I don't think this means that Go is gonna take over. I don't think this means we'll never see Brock and Misty again. I think Go.
Well, Brock
is
has a rocket ship now, so he can go anywhere he wants.
I think this is a strong enough. Go is a strong enough character to return, just like Gary was, just like Misty was. But I think with at least. And to be fair, unless you looked at the leaks, unless you have no clue what scene I'm talking about, it's very quick, it's very subtle, but like, I guess that's a spoiler. Sorry, there's more than 2 legendaries in Scarlet and Violet. There is Koraidon, there is Miraidon, there will be more. The 3rd yellow dog will finally appear. Finally,
the best dog at Bolton.
Spoiler, Bolton evolves into the new legendary.
Yeah, finally all my dreams coming true.
It has both a sword and a shield this time.
Yep, it's got a
Crazy.
spear and a suit of armor.
But I think that it would be the worst business decision in the world for them to throw away Ash.
They're not
and
throwing
just
away Ash.
start
I think,
over.
like, as sick as you are of Ash,
I'm not sick of Ash.
No, I'm saying to people out there, as sick as you are about Ash, there's always a new generation that needs pretty much a blank character to stand in for them, and Ash will always be that person.
Al is furiously trying to find the picture of that.
I am trying to find this.
I couldn't like it on Twitter because then everyone would see it. I'll get it for you after the show. Ash is sitting on a bed.
I think I've found it, but I can't see anything in the picture.
It should be
anyway,
Ash.
We'll talk about it later.
It should be Ash and Pikachu sitting on a bed. The poster should have like 2 boats in it, and then above the boats is the legendary Pokemon.
Yeah, I can't see anything above the boats.
It's probably a bad screenshot then.
Yeah, we'll talk about it later.
Yeah,
It's fine.
You would have to go so far out of your way to find the spoiler. It would be.
Yeah.
I wouldn't worry about it if you're listening to the podcast. It's fine. They do that. They've done this for past episodes, though. They've always like hinted.
Yeah.
In like games and anime episodes of future stuff, and no one will ever realize it until 6 months later.
Hindsight is 2020, because then you know and you go, oh, okay.
Our final bit of news, which will take the most amount of time, we were saving the best for last, is Teddiursa is now at Build-A-Bear. So.
Okay, so let's talk about the clothing that you can put on Teddiursa and how actually having a bear from Pokemon at Build-A-Bear finally makes sense. They have finally done the one thing that we want them to do, is have a bear from Pokemon in Build-A-Bear. Anyways, the color of the green cloaks.
Build-A-Bear is a nightmare, by the way.
Yeah, when you go on a Saturday at the Mall of America.
I've been into Build-A-Bear multiple times. They've announced a Pikachu, an Eevee, a Grookey, Gengar, you name it. They've had it. It's been what, 2-3 years since the initial partnership with Build-A-Bear, I think.
Longer than that, hasn't it? Wasn't it before 2020?
Yeah, I think before pandemic for sure. Yeah. So I've never purchased anything from Build-A-Bear. Obviously, I know how Build-A-Bear works. You pick out you pick out a skin. You take the skin over to the stuffing machine. You stick its butt onto the stuffing machine and fills it all up, right? And then that's what happens at Build-A-Bear. So I went on a journey because my friend really wanted she really wanted that Teddiursa, so she waited in line. Greg, Will, and we did a couple laps at MOA because she was in line for like an hour.
Here's the thing you need to know, people. When people ask me what Steve is like in real life, I can now say he will abandon you in a line.
Oh yeah,
to go do whatever he wants to do. He will just straight up abandon you.
Look, I got like she said it was all good.
To continue to walk in a circle.
It was Pikmin Community Day, Greg. I needed the steps.
You had the steps.
I didn't.
Hours before.
I didn't. I was behind. I had to walk around my house.
That is a 24-hour day thing. You could have done it. Instead, you looked at your friend and said,
"Peace.
See ya. I'm out to just go walk."
I came back when the line was over.
We made you.
I got back. You guys were leaving anyway.
Will and I left, and we're like, "Go, do."
I got back in
person.
line. We pick out. She grabs the bear. We walk over. She grabs the friend ball T-shirt, whatever. You have to wait in another line.
Yeah,
and then you wait in the line to get it stuffed. That was another 45 minutes. She waited 45 minutes to get in the store. You wait in line another 45 minutes. When you're done getting it stuffed, you wait in another line to check out. It is absolutely insane.
It's a good business model.
This is it's mine.
I have only ever done it once, and I did not have to wait in any lines because it was very quiet.
I have, you can see in the background, I have one Build-A-Bear.
Oh, that's a Build-A-Bear?
Yeah, and I ordered it online because I am not doing that in person. I can bring it down if you want to see it. It's a Jawa.
I don't think I have any in here. I have a few. I have a Pikachu and a Bowser and a couple of those as well.
We'll say not my Teddiursa, but looking at this Teddiursa in person after it got stuffed, very good quality. Not like that Eevee. Don't ever get that Eevee at Build-A-Bear. It is a monster. It is. Although the girl in front of us did there
again.
I will say, while waiting in line, multiple lines, there were a lot of people in line that were very into Pokemon. I saw a little girl.
It was Community Day.
I saw a little girl brushing her Pikachu skin because it was pre-stuffed. It was just this very flat Pikachu
skin. Oh my
yeah, because
word.
it's like the skin. It's like
is Husk better? Cradling or Pikachu Husk?
I saw a girl with an Eevee. The other Build-A-Bears that seemed to be very popular were just like Disney. Just like I had to hear somebody play the Lion King song like 700 times because they weren't sure which 3 Lion King songs they wanted to put into their. I don't even know what they were buying. It was like a dog. It wasn't even Lion King related. Anyways, that is a heck. I don't know where all the Teddiursa love came from. There's a bunch of Teddiursa merch happening in Japan. There's this Teddiursa Build-A-Bear. There was Teddiursa Community Day. I don't know why they're going really hard on Teddiursa all of a sudden, but I don't know. Maybe there's a
somebody's got to be set up for the new anime when Ash and Pikachu don't show up.
Maybe there's some Ursa Luna Titan or something coming. I don't know why they're pushing Teddiursa so hard. I actually don't know if Teddiursa's even in Scarlet. Did they show that? I should look at my own graphic. I don't know if I think Teddiursa is coming back. I would wager to assume that if a Pokemon got an evolution in Legends Arceus, it would probably be fair game for Paldea, but I don't actually know. I think Teddiursa is coming back. Anyways.
I'm saying nothing.
Question of the week.
Question of the week.
This is from Hannah from our YouTube. What is the most influential Pokemon generation?
3.
I mean, it has to be 1. So, I mean, if we're talking about like overall global influence, I don't see how you can argue anything other than 1.
I mean, it depends on what you. It depends on what you mean by influential. So, like influence on the world, as far as impact, yeah, Gen 1. If you're talking about influential on the series as a whole, I think it's Gen 3. Like Gen 3 is where they deliberately made choices to say that this is going to be an ongoing series. Since we know Gen 2 was meant to be the last, Gen 3 really, to me, shows that they were willing to jump into a brand new system, knowing that people couldn't bring things forward and say, we are going to deliberately start making this an ongoing forever series. And you can see all those markers in Gen 3. So, world impact, Gen 1, because it introduced Pokemon series game impact, Gen 3.
Gosh, I would say Gen 5.
Oh, interesting.
I would say
Why?
Gen 5 because I don't think anyone's saying Gen 2 or Gen 4. Because Gen 2 is a continuation of everything of Gen 1 and everything was like slightly better. Gen 4 felt like everything was slightly better but like no huge impacts. Gen 5 to me felt like that they were okay making a choice that would upset fans on their terms. Gen 3 was a hardware limitation that they knew would upset fans, but something they had to do. And I think Greg is right in like they set a new foundation because of hardware, kind of because they had to.
Well, they had to, but they also set. But you could also see in their game designs at that point, they had started to future-proof, had started to draw the lines of what they wanted their games to be going forward. And I think every game has really built off of Gen 3 and refined it down. So I'm curious, what major shift do you think happened in Gen 5 that wasn't building off of what they had already laid as a foundation?
I think if the games continued in a sense of Gen 2, 3, 4, and just that pattern of slow iterations, the series would have went the way of like a Yokai Watch or a Digimon. And by throwing everything out and saying, we're not going to rely on Charizard, we're not going to rely on Tyranitar, we're not going to rely on Pikachu, here's 150 new creatures, here's a new world, here are all of these quality of life updates that should have existed in Gen 4. And we are confident that going forward, even though we know that this will upset people, just like they knew that cutting the national decks would upset people, it was the right decision, 100%.
But they threw everything out for Gen 3, right? Like,
but
there was no Charizard. Yeah, but they didn't include Charizard or any of them in that Pokedex. They didn't exist until Fire
Red Leaf Green.
Red Leaf Green, which came out later. Like what you're saying they did for Gen 5, they had already done. It would have been easy for them in Gen 3 to say, let's include all of the popular ones from Gen 1 and Gen 2, and they didn't. They said, we're starting fresh.
They included a lot of Gen 1 and Gen 2 Pokemon, though.
They had some in the Safari. You don't run into a Gen 1 or 2 Pokemon until way late in that game.
Yeah, but that's because like they were going to do all new Pokemon, and then they realized they couldn't. That's why the first couple routes are all new Pokemon, and then all of a sudden you get all the old ones. That's well documented on how the beginning of the game was in like a nutshell of them thinking everything was going to be new, and then them panicking and starting putting old Pokemon in. But they didn't go back to the first couple routes to put old Pokemon in. That was why like the beginning of that game feels so fresh, and then all of a sudden like it kind of goes back to what they relied on.
I think there's also, if we're talking about influential to the game franchise rather than the world, which, okay, that probably creates more discussion. That's fair. I would also say there's an argument for 6 as well, because the transition from sprites to models was possibly the biggest graphics change they have ever and will ever do. And yeah, sure, like obviously more games just now are probably more different from Generation 6 than Generation 5 was, but that one generation jump I think was the biggest in terms of graphics, which said we are no longer doing this. And even remakes are not like that. You know, has not been a game with purely sprites. They have obviously sprites in some menus, but there is not a game that has been purely sprites since that happened.
Yeah. Gen 5 was also the like we care about competitive.
Yeah,
which has laid a very which was kind of shocking how like the games that were supposed to be this collection aspect, right? Like I collected bugs and now I want to turn this into a game, and they were like, well, this isn't a very fun game, so we have to like add battling. And then the anime was very like, I want to be the very best battler, and then you could do that, right? Like you could battle people in Gen 2, right? Greg and I could hook up our link cable, we could battle. And then Gen 4, they kind of started that, and Gen 5 was like really seriously like people want to be like Ash. People want to know that they are the very best. And now we have a system, we have tournaments, we have world championships, which kind of started in Gen 4, but they really solidified and moved forward and that was a thing I wanted as a kid, right? Like I thought I was very good at Pokemon. I thought I was the best. I thought I was like an Ash, right? Like I beat the Elite Four. I beat Blue or Gary or whoever you named your rival. Like I am the best Pokemon person. And Gen 5 really was like, here is a competitive thing that exists, and we're going to stick with this and move forward. And they also didn't give up on that either. Like, if anything, that has been very solid.
I do think, like, you can point at a number of generations where they got more serious about a certain aspect of the game.
Yeah.
Like, here's when they finally realized how they could do VGC and do all of those things, and then refined it down from that. Like, it's interesting that you can look at if you've played these games for a long time, when you can point to a thing and say, here's where they made that decision. Here's where they made that decision, because they've been building off it ever since, and it didn't exist before.
Okay. I think we'll wrap up. No Pokemon of the week, no Will this week. I'm not sure when will be back on, because Will plays very slow.
Yeah, and he likes taking his time.
He likes taking his time.
Will and I are going to be gone for an entire weekend, so.
Yeah, and I will also be gone for a weekend. So, podcast is going to come out every Monday no matter what. There will be a mini series. Greg and I do want to record something, and I don't know if we're going to include another person on Friday night after we spend a couple hours with the game. That will probably go out on Saturday, which let me get some dates for you guys. So if you're listening to this would be May. This would be November 14th. And then there will be probably an Impressions episode on November 19th. and then a normal episode on the 21st. Now, in that normal episode, we will probably talk about the mechanics of the game, but nothing story related. And obviously that will be timestamped. And then I am thinking probably Thursday or Friday, the 24th or the 25th, there will be another bonus episode, and that's probably where we'll start some sort of series of like 2 gyms or 3 gyms, or, you know, Al went north, Pengu went right, Greg went left, I went south. There's nothing south, it's just a beach. So it's really hard to do because it's like an open world game. So, you know, even if we went in the perceived order, it's like, well, are we all skipping Team Star? Are we doing this and Team Star? Are we doing this Team Star and Titans? So we need at least a day or two with this game to kind of figure out what our game plan is. With Legends, that game was really short.
Yeah.
So we did that in
Well, it also had defined areas as well.
Yeah.
So
As we've mentioned
all
before,
of
it's
Legends.
not open world.
We did all of Legends in 3 episodes, although those episodes were longer. If you would like to support the show, if you want ad-free episodes, you can subscribe to our Patreon, patreon.com/PKMNcast. If you're on Apple Podcasts, you can subscribe directly in Apple Podcasts. I do want to answer this question. Somebody was like, hey, I subscribed on Apple Podcasts. I'm still getting ad episodes. If your Apple Podcast is set to auto download, because the ad version goes up first, it will auto download that. I have to wait 15 minutes until that episode is published to add the ad-free version. That's an Apple Podcast thing. So turn off auto download. And if you just stream it, or if you just download it manually, it will default to the ad-free episode once it's there. Unless you're like waiting at your like phone for it to like 4 a.m. It takes me like 15 minutes to upload. I literally cannot upload the ad-free until Apple sees the normal episode first. But supporting the show goes a huge way. What I do here for a living, gets you into the Slack, gets you a bunch of other bonus benefits as well. There will be a brand new poster, a Galar poster, going out to Patreon people who are at that specific tier. So if you want to check that out, patreon.com/PKMNcast. Sometime this week going up, I will be giving away an OLED Pokemon Nintendo Switch, completely free to enter. You'll just have to follow the Twitch, the Instagram, the YouTube, all that stuff. I will be putting out infographics as we go along with Scarlet and Violet. I will be putting out YouTube content. I will be doing a 72-hour marathon on Friday the 18th at 12 p.m. Central Time. I will be streaming 12 hours from 12 to 12 Central Time, which is 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. Pacific, which is 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. Al's time, I think.
Yep,
Something
that's
like
correct.
that.
It's only Al's time.
Only Al's
Nobody
time,
else. It just
Specific
only
Al
Al.
time, yeah.
Al is on his own meridian, the whole thing.
So if you want to join in on those marathons, if you play the game at midnight or play the game the morning of, you'll already be ahead of me for that. And again, it's so hard to say with open world because you might decide to go north.
Yeah.
And I might decide to go left, and you'll be like, I haven't been left yet. And I was like, well, what do you want me to do?
Don't mix your signals. North, east, right, straight, left.
Everyone in Twitch, we're all going right.
Everybody go right. Twitch, right. Podcast, left.
So marathon weekend. And again, I said this last week, I will say this again. If you don't have any friends or family or anything to do on Thanksgiving, I will be streaming on Thanksgiving for people in the U.S. I know being alone for the holiday sucks. I've been there, done that. So if you need to hang out, I will be streaming on pretty much like 10 to 12 hours on Thanksgiving for that. So yeah, that's the game plan going forward. Again, if you want ad-free episode, also this was asked: are the mini episodes going to be paywalled? No, completely free. There will probably be an ad somewhere in the middle, but completely free for all the Sword and Shield content will be free or not Sword and Shield. That's technically all the Scarlet and Violet stuff will be. I mean, we will still have paid bonus episodes for patrons, but not the miniseries. Miniseries is still going to be free. So, anyways, Greg is at White Wing. Al is at the Scott Bot, if I remember correctly. Unless you dropped
Correct.
the
one T in Scott.
I am at Dragging a Lake. I don't know why we're still promoting Twitter at the end of this show. Twitter's not going to exist in a month. We're going to have to start promoting like Instagram or something.
I am going to go down with the ship. I am on the deck of the Titanic, playing all my instruments. Things are getting spicy. You could ask me any question, and I have been answering them. So get them in now, folks.
Get them in.
Nobody cares. It's the end of the world.
Hey, I reactivated the PKMNcast, the Pokemon Cast. I reactivated the Tumblr. Not sure if I'm going to use the Tumblr.
My Tumblr's back up in existence, and I'm like, I forgot what I was doing with this thing.
Not sure if we're going to go the Tumblr route. It exists. But, thanks for making it to the end of the show. Very, very excited for Scarlet and Violet.
This has been like 3 hours.
It's the final episode before the thingy.
I'm just saying, Al has to come up with a code word to make sure people came all the way to the end.
Yeah, Al, give us a good code word for the Twitch people to know they made it to the end.
Oh, well, okay, good point. It's going to be...
What was that word you said at the beginning? That Greg and I were like, what? What does that mean?
Yeah, squint. Squint shelves. There we go.
Squinty shelves.
There we go. Okay. So come into Twitch and say the secret word, or in the Slack, we'll have a thread. We'll have a thread for secret word, so we know you made it to the end.
Yeah, anyways, the Slack people don't really care about the secret word. I don't think it's ever said.
It's not.
We got to make the Slack care about the secret word. Hey, if you're watching on YouTube...
We can't make Slack care about anything.
If you're watching on YouTube, please like, subscribe. Also, if you're watching on YouTube, type the secret word so we know you made it to the end as well. So, anyways, thank you for listening. We will see you guys on Saturday. And then normal episode on Monday. Have a great night, weekend. I hope you enjoy the heck out of Scarlet and Violet. This has been another episode of the Pokemon Podcast, and we are...
super effective.
Super spoiler alert, there are new Pokemon in Scarlet and Violet. Exclusive leaks right here.